everyone, I know you're watching this content to help you fall asleep, so before we begin, I'd like to ask where you're tuning in from and what time it is. Remember to focus on the story that follows. An American student named Mariella Valadez had planned a simple night out at a popular nightclub, expecting a fun evening. Unexpectedly, she met an aspiring rapper who took an interest in her and suggested they continue their night somewhere more private. However, this new acquaintance was already involved in a complicated relationship, part of a bizarre love triangle, and his partners did not welcome Mariella's sudden appearance. Her naive trust ultimately led to her tragic death, but the case was far from straightforward. It involved intense jealousy, a desperate desire to cling to fading youth, occult rituals, and even an international manhunt for fugitives. Thanks to relentless investigative efforts, all involved parties were eventually identified, and each person's role clarified. Mariella Valadez was born in 1997 in Seattle, the largest city in Washington state. She was the eldest of two children in a Latin American family, raised alongside her younger brother. Descriptions of her painted her as a sweet, outgoing young woman who was well liked by many, excelled academically, and later enrolled at a prestigious university. She was considered truly beautiful, petite, slender, with a dark brunette hue, big brown eyes, luxurious hair, and an impeccable figure. Her charm and attractiveness drew many admirers, and she loved being the center of attention. Mariella thrived at lively parties, relishing every moment of fun and socializing. On Saturday, October 3rd, 2020, Mariella flew to Dallas to visit old friends. She planned to return by Monday morning, with her brother waiting to meet her at the airport on October 5th so they could go to university together. But her plane arrived without her. When all passengers from the Dallas flight had disembarked, her brother realized she was missing. Concerned, he tried calling her, but her phone was off. He then contacted their parents to report her disappearance. Given her responsible nature, it was out of character for Mariella to vanish without warning or miss her classes. The family began calling her friends in Dallas, trying to piece together her last whereabouts. It emerged that the night before her disappearance, she had been partying at one of the city's most popular clubs, where she met a black man named Chuck. They danced, drank alcohol, and after that, they left together. Mariella was never seen again, and her phone remained unanswered. Alarmed and frightened by her sudden disappearance, her parents promptly reported her missing to the police. It was confirmed that the young woman had purchased a ticket for a flight to Seattle, yet for reasons unknown, she never boarded the plane. Since that night, no one had seen her, and her whereabouts remained a mystery. Authorities needed to identify her last known companion, where they had gone, and whether she had left willingly. Reviewing footage from nearby surveillance cameras around the club, law enforcement saw the missing woman leaving with a young man whose face was unclear. The footage suggested she was walking with him voluntarily before they entered the black Audi and drove off in an unknown direction. Several days had passed since Bella Valadez, age 23, vanished, and she had not contacted anyone nor accessed her social media or bank accounts. The police urgently sought to identify her companion to determine where to search. One of her friends mentioned that her companion might be named Chuck, but this detail was too vague. Fortunately, street camera footage revealed the car's direction after it left the scene. It also showed the pair stopping at a supermarket, where they appeared happy, affectionate, and smiling. Bella selected drinks and candies, which her companion paid for with a card registered to Chuck Beltran. This clarified her companion's identity. Beltran was a 31-year-old musician, considered a rising local rap star. However, he had a criminal past, having served 2 prison sentences for robbery and armed assault, totaling less than 3 years, and had recently been released on parole. Beltran's career was gaining momentum, and he was preparing to release his own music album. Authorities traced his residence and, through cell phone data, confirmed Bella's phone had been active at the location on the night she disappeared. The house belonged to a woman named Lisa Dyke, who rented a room to Beltran. When police, accompanied by an FBI agent investigating her disappearance, visited the house, it was found empty. Lisa Dyke confirmed she was out of state on business and that Beltran had moved out a few weeks earlier, claiming she had no knowledge of his current whereabouts. Since they could not locate or contact the prime suspect, law enforcement obtained a warrant to search Beltran's former residence. Inside, they discovered a collection of unexpected items, hinting at further developments in the case. The house was in a state of chaos, revealing disturbing and unsettling scenes. It appeared that the occupants had left abruptly, taking only essential belongings while leaving everything else scattered and neglected. The kitchen sink was overflowing with dirty dishes, moldy food remnants cluttered the table, and trash accumulated in the corners. Among the mess, numerous empty bottles of cleaning agents and detergents were found, with traces of their contents on the floors and carpets, suggesting a frantic attempt to scrub or clean the space. In one of the upstairs rooms, a strange and ominous black statue of death draped in a dark cloak was discovered. It could have been mistaken for an odd piece of decor, but it was arranged as a makeshift altar, complete with wax candles, dried flowers, and 2 metal bowls. The setup bore a striking resemblance to the Mexican religious cult of Santa Muerte, where a female deity representing death is venerated. The entire house exuded an atmosphere that was more than just peculiar. It felt as though something terrible had transpired there, prompting the occupants to hurriedly clean, gather their essentials, and flee. To understand what had happened, investigators employed specialized tools to detect traces of blood. Their efforts uncovered numerous bloodstains on the floors of a bedroom, the bathroom, and the hallway. Further examination revealed that the bedroom, where the carpet was soaked in blood, belonged to Charles. It became clear that a violent crime had taken place in that room. The question remained, who was the victim? Was it the missing girl, the tenant himself, or someone else entirely? Despite attempts to clean the scene, the blood had seeped into the carpet, under the baseboards, and stained the wallpaper and furniture. Forensic experts compared the blood traces with Mariella's DNA, conclusively confirming that the blood belonged to her. The house was sealed off as a crime scene, but now the focus shifted to identifying the main suspect, potential accomplices, and witnesses. This task proved difficult, as Charles had fled, and even before the police arrived, the owner had hastily put the house up for sale. Authorities began gathering information about everyone who had recently lived there. Neighbors revealed that 3 individuals resided in the house: 57-year-old Lisa Deek, 48-year-old Nina Morano, and 31-year-old Charles Beltran. However, their relationships and the reasons for their sudden disappearance remained unclear, necessitating a thorough investigation into each person's background. The house's owner, reachable only by phone, was a seasoned lawyer known for her commanding and often contentious demeanor. She had been married 3 times and, after becoming widowed several years earlier, inherited a substantial estate. There was no apparent financial motive for her to rent out a room to anyone, nor was she known for charitable acts. Her involvement and the true nature of the events that unfolded in that house remained shrouded in mystery, awaiting further investigation. Charles, a young black man named Chuck Beltran, harbored ambitions of establishing a career in the rap industry. Yet his path was obstructed by a lack of funds, limited connections, and a criminal past that haunted him. About a year earlier, his fortunes changed when he met Dyke, who took him into her home, helped set up a modest recording studio, and sponsored several music videos to promote his talent. She also bought him a car, covered his entertainment expenses, and provided fashionable clothing, all while insisting their relationship was purely professional. Dyke saw significant potential in Chuck, viewing her financial support as a strategic investment in his future. The situation with Nina Morano was even more complex. She and Lisa had been involved intimately for some time, and after Dyke became a widow, she no longer concealed her affair with Nina. Several months before, the women had formalized their union through marriage, and Nina moved into Dyke's house, where Chuck was already living. According to a close friend, Lisa had an affair with the young musician, though she vehemently denied it publicly. Privately, she confided how incredible Chuck was as a lover, suggesting she was in love with him. Her feelings appeared to influence her behavior. After their relationship began, Dyke desperately tried to appear younger. She lost over 55 pounds, revamped her image, adopted bright makeup, and even acquired colorful tattoos. She also evicted her adult children, whom she considered a hindrance to her personal life. Chuck's motivation for living with a wealthy, older lover was clear. Dyke's financial support resolved his monetary struggles and helped advance his music career. Despite her age, Dyke was physically attractive and often attracted the attention of younger women, leading to fleeting affairs that fueled Lisa's jealousy. Nina Morano played a pivotal role in this intricate web. According to the same close friend, Nina was part of this unusual love triangle and was the only woman with whom Dyke allowed her young lover to sleep. She even insisted on it. Nina, a successful lawyer and affluent woman, completed the trio, living a life of luxury and indulgence. Interestingly, after their marriage, both women adopted Chuck's surname, and the household was known as the Beltran residence. The whereabouts of the house's residents became a mystery after the disappearance of Mariella. It was discovered that since her vanishing, no one had been seen at the house, where her blood was later found. The only contact with Lisa was a brief phone call, during which she claimed to be in another state, and afterward her phone went unanswered. Little was known about Nina Morano's fate or Chuck's whereabouts. Mobile phone tracking revealed that on the night of October 5th, all three, Lisa, Nina, and Chuck, along with the missing Mariella, had been at the house. By early morning, the signals from their device shifted to a remote, wooded suburb outside Dallas, then suddenly vanished. A few days later, Lisa responded only from her second work phone, which soon became unreachable. Using geolocation data from their mobile devices, investigators mapped the route the group had taken that night, pinpointing the stops they made along the way. It was believed that somewhere within this vast area, they might have disposed of the missing students' bodies. The search zone was broad and difficult to navigate, causing progress to be slow. As the new year approached, the operation was suspended since neither remains nor clues had been uncovered. In March of 2021, a local hunter wandering through the woods discovered a relatively fresh human skull. He quickly reported his find to the police, and the remains were sent for forensic analysis. Dental records confirmed the skull belonged to a student from Seattle who had been missing for nearly half a year. However, advanced decomposition and animal damage prevented precise determination of the cause of death. Notably, several marks on the bones suggested knife wounds, but it was unclear whether these injuries were fatal. Soon after this grim discovery, authorities tracked down Lisa, who had moved to Florida with Nina and rented a house near the ocean in Miami. Unfortunately, only Nina was apprehended. Her husband, upon learning of the situation, went into hiding. Charles left no direct traces but maintained sporadic contact with former girlfriends through messaging apps. In her last message, Nina warned that the body had been found and cautioned everyone to be vigilant as the police were closing in. Currently incarcerated, Nina refused to disclose any information about Maricella's fate, claiming ignorance. Meanwhile, Lisa, leveraging her connections, sought a skilled lawyer for her husband. It was also revealed that while in Florida, Nina had put her South Carolina house up for sale, likely trying to liquidate assets quickly, possibly to fund her continued concealment or to leave the country altogether. A month later, authorities located and arrested Lisa, and both women were transported for questioning. Initial interrogations yielded little, and each suspect was released on bail of $500,000. They managed to post the bond and were placed under house arrest, fitted with tracking devices to monitor their movements. In August of that year, the police traced Charles to Utah, where he was hiding at the home of an ex-girlfriend. She was raising a 5-year-old son fathered by Beltran and was reportedly pleased that he was in her care, though the investigation into his whereabouts continued. In December, Dive Tisiachi Dvadsat Odin, a man's father, returned to her, but she never questioned his sudden decision. The suspect initially refused to cooperate with authorities, hoping that his wealthy lover's money and influence would secure him a skilled lawyer and help him avoid jail. However, everything changed dramatically on Christmas Eve. The tracking bracelets worn by Lisa and Nina, who had been released on bail, went offline amid holiday chaos and heightened activity. It took until the following day for authorities to send a team to locate them, but by then, the women had vanished. It soon emerged that they had meticulously planned their escape for months. By the time the police pursued them, they had already crossed into Mexico illegally, then flew to South Korea, with their trail ending in Cambodia. The FBI rejoined the investigation, collaborating with Cambodian police and immigration officials to track the fugitives. The women attracted law enforcement attention after withdrawing a large sum of cash from an ATM and attempting to pay in cash everywhere to hide their whereabouts. Surveillance footage from the ATM identified them, and a nearby camera captured the license plate of the vehicle they arrived in. This evidence led authorities to a rented house belonging to the foreigners, where the women were eventually rearrested and extradited to the United States. By February of the following year, justice was set to be served, bail was denied, and they were sent straight to jail. By then, Charles, known as Chuck, had fully realized that his lover would not save him from prison and was only concerned with her own safety. This realization prompted him to decide to cooperate with investigators and provide information. His detailed account of that dreadful night shocked many. Beltran admitted that he had been involved in an intimate relationship with Lisa and her husband, Na. He explained that he engaged in these affairs for money and to further his music career, harboring no genuine affection for the women. He often indulged in affairs with young, attractive women, which he never tried to hide. On October 5th, 2020, Chuck met a young student named Mariella at a nightclub. Her slender beauty immediately caught his eye, and it seemed she was equally interested. After several hours of drinking and dancing, he invited her home, and she agreed. When they arrived late at night, Lisa and Na were already asleep, allowing Chuck to bring Mariella into his room easily. The two engaged in intimate acts and eventually fell asleep. According to Chuck, in the middle of the night, Lisa entered his room and, seeing the young woman asleep beside him, was consumed by jealousy. Her reaction was intense, revealing the volatile emotions underlying the night's events. The kitchen was the first place where she grabbed a large knife before returning and repeatedly attacking Mariella. Charles claimed he was awakened by the noise and initially disoriented, still somewhat intoxicated. When he finally turned on the light, he was confronted with a horrific scene. Maricella's body had fallen to the floor beside the bed, having bled out. At that moment, Na entered the room, and both of them stood silently for several minutes, neither attempting to help the victim. Once Chuck regained his composure, he realized that the crime could be pinned on him, given his criminal record and the influence of his lovers, who might escape punishment. Fearing this, he agreed to help dispose of the body and cover up the murder. Charles stayed with friends for several days, and upon returning to retrieve his belongings, he noticed that the bloodstains on the floor and carpet had nearly vanished. Lisa told him she and Nina had taken care of everything, destroying all evidence. Still, all three decided it was safest to leave town temporarily and observe from afar what might unfold next. Lisa D.Y. Bell's lawyer argued that his client had no motive to kill Mariella. She maintained that her relationship with Chuck was purely professional, viewing his budding music career as a worthwhile investment. She claimed she was never concerned about whom he flirted with or slept with. Her defense also highlighted that Lisa had recently married and was happy with Moran. However, no one could explain why, after their wedding, the women suddenly chose to adopt the surname of the young lodger, a man they claimed meant nothing to them. During the trial, Lisa insisted that Charles was quick-tempered and cruel, turning into a beast when drunk, which she feared. She recounted that on that night, he had brought a new girl from the club, and after they became intimate, an argument erupted. In a rage, Chuck grabbed a knife. Lisa and Nina rushed in to separate them, but it was too late. Mariella was dead. They helped him dispose of the body and clean the scene, fearing they might be next victims. Testimonies from witnesses painted a disturbing picture. A friend of Lisa's testified that Lisa was obsessed with Chuck and had repeatedly confessed her uncontrollable desire to eliminate any girl who approached her young lover. She seemed unable to manage her emotions that night. The same witness also mentioned an unusual Santa Muerte statue at Lisa's house, recalling that during a visit she was surprised by the makeshift altar. The homeowner joked that she practiced black magic and knew spells to make a man only have eyes for her, but apparently the ritual failed, leading her to resort to violence with a knife. Another witness, a real estate agent approached by the women shortly after the incident, testified that they were eager to sell several properties they owned as quickly as possible, suggesting they wanted to disappear and avoid further trouble. In early 2023, a complex and tragic case unfolded involving a family and a series of devastating events. The authorities faced obstacles in selling a Dallas residence as it was linked to an alleged crime scene, preventing any transactions during the ongoing investigation. The situation intensified when the remains of a missing young woman were finally discovered, prompting Lisa and Nina to consider selling the property at half its value simply to recover some money quickly. The court's verdict took into account Charles's full confession and his cooperation with law enforcement. However, the fugitive's circumstances worsened after they attempted to escape to another continent in March of 2023. Lisa DJ Beltran was convicted of a brutal crime against a 23-year-old woman named Mariella, along with charges of evidence concealment and attempted flight. She was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Charles Beltran and Nina Moran admitted their guilt and cooperated fully with investigators. Their sentences reflected their level of involvement. Nina received a 7-year term but could be released after 3 years for good behavior, while Charles, who had a history of prior convictions, was sentenced to 12 years with the possibility of parole after serving 8. Meanwhile, Milford, a charming coastal city in Connecticut, lies along the Long Island Sound. Covering just over 25 square miles, Milford is home to more than 50,000 residents. Known for its stunning beaches and vibrant community, the city attracts visitors and locals alike who appreciate its scenic landscapes and waterfront activities. Its history dates back to colonial times, blending historic architecture with modern amenities, creating a unique and inviting atmosphere. Yet in 2022, the peaceful city was unaware that tragedy was about to strike. To understand the depth of the events, one must look into the past of Julie Minogue. Born on July 19, 1982, in the quaint town of Gowan, New York, she was raised by loving parents, Gerald J. Minogue and Sandra B. Stoper. Julie grew up alongside her 2 siblings, Allison and Peter, in a nurturing environment. She excelled academically, attending Monroe Woodbury schools and graduating from Monroe Woodbury High School. She furthered her education at Orange County Community College, broadening her knowledge and embracing new experiences. After college, Julie became a dedicated medical assistant at Connecticut Coastal Obstetrics and Gynecology, finding joy in her work and her active lifestyle, which included running and walking to stay energized. Her greatest passion, however, was her role as a mother to her 2 sons, Nicholas Keith Turner and Sean Michael Turner. Details about her marriage and husband remain unknown, but her love and dedication as a single mother created a strong bond with her children. In 2017, Julie found love again and entered a relationship with a man from Roxbury named U&A, adding another chapter to her life story. Anthony and Julie DeWitt welcomed their son, Luke Anthony Minogue, into their lives in DVE Tisiachi Deviat Natsat. As time went on, however, challenges emerged in their relationship, leading Julie to make the difficult decision to leave Jan in DV Tisiachi Devatsat Odin. She relocated with her sons to a condo on Salem Walk in Milford, prioritizing their safety and well-being. By DVE Tisiachi Devatsat DVA, her eldest son Nicholas, then 21, had bravely served in the Coast Guard, while her 17-year-old son Sean was thriving as a high school senior. Their youngest Luke was only 3, a bright spot in their household. Julie, at 40, appeared to have a stable life with her 3 boys, but tragedy lurked just around the corner. Late on the night of December 6, 2022, 17-year-old Nicholas was awakened by terrifying screams. At first, he dismissed the sounds as echoes from the neighborhood, but as they grew louder and more desperate, he realized something was terribly wrong. Fearing for his mother's safety, he hurried downstairs. In the darkness, he glimpsed a horrifying scene, a man wielding an axe and his mother lying on the floor, blood covering her body. Amidst the chaos, Nicholas heard the chilling words, "You didn't believe me," echoing in his mind. Panicked, he rushed upstairs, locked the door, and called Deviatsot Odinatsat, desperately trying to protect himself. To reinforce the barricade, he pushed a sturdy chair behind the door, then frantically reached out the window for help. Within minutes, police arrived and entered the house. Fearing for his safety, Nicholas leapt out of the window, but officers quickly located him and reassured him. The officers then discovered the tragic scene inside. Julie Minogue lying in a pool of blood on the kitchen floor, her face and skull severely injured by multiple deep cuts. Nearby, a large axe rested on the stove, evidence of the brutal attack. In the living room, 3-year-old Luke sat motionless on the couch, unresponsive and seemingly frozen in shock, with no tears or words. Officers stayed with him, offering comfort until additional help arrived. Following her tragic death, Julie's body was carefully transported to the Connecticut office of the chief medical examiner. A thorough autopsy revealed that her cause of death was due to multiple chop wounds and blood impact injuries to her head, torso, and limbs. The detailed findings provided crucial evidence about the severity and nature of the assault, marking a devastating chapter for her family. Shedding light on the tragic events surrounding her sudden death, authorities seized the axe found on the gas stove as crucial evidence. Police meticulously examined every inch of the scene, determined to uncover clues that might lead them to the perpetrator. Their thorough search of the house involved scrutinizing each room for anything that could explain the heinous crime. The commotion drew the attention of nearby neighbors, who gathered anxiously, eager to support the investigation. Among them, a helpful neighbor provided an unexpected lead: security footage from a ring camera outside his residence in the Long Meadow complex. The police quickly seized this opportunity, hoping the footage might contain vital clues. As they reviewed the video, they saw a figure walking with an axe in hand, closely resembling the description given by Nicholas. This discovery sparked a wave of anticipation among investigators, who now focused on identifying the man with the weapon. On December 6th of 2022, a major breakthrough occurred when a distressed woman contacted the police. In trembling voice, she revealed that her son had just called her, confessing that he had killed his girlfriend. Her urgent words prompted law enforcement to act swiftly. They tracked her down and learned that the man responsible was Jan D.T., a 42-year-old former partner of Julie. Armed with this critical information, police attempted to reach Jan by phone, but he abruptly hung up, resisting engagement. This prompted them to delve into his background, believing it could hold essential details for the case. Born in Roxbury in 1979, Jan Anthony DeWitt had a diverse array of interests. An accomplished athlete, he played semi-professional ice hockey, demonstrating his dedication to sports. His intellectual curiosity led him to earn a bachelor's degree in history from Siena College. Not content with just one career, he also trained as a firefighter and worked as a personal trainer. However, his past was marred by legal issues. In 2006, he was arrested in Connecticut for driving under the influence and traffic violations. He pleaded guilty, resulting in a suspended sentence and probation. Despite these setbacks, Jan's journey took a notable turn when he joined a prestigious organization, marking a new chapter in his life. In 2009, Jan DeWitt enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, beginning his journey as a skilled weapons specialist and non-commissioned officer. Over the course of 5 years of dedicated service, he rose to the rank of Lance Corporal by 2011. A notable photograph from his military days captures him in action as a machine gunner, bravely operating a powerful 25mm caliber machine gun mounted on a vehicle during a critical defense operation in an amphibious task force naval exercise. This event took place on December 3rd of that year aboard the USS Chima. Demonstrating leadership and technical skill, Yuan soon took on the role of machine gun section leader within the prestigious 1st Reconnaissance Battalion. His commitment to duty led him through multiple deployments to Afghanistan, the Middle East, and other classified locations, where he served alongside his comrades with unwavering dedication. His inspiring story, alongside his brothers, was featured in a 2015 article in the Register Citizen *, emphasizing their collective efforts to preserve a piece of history. However, Yuan's life took a darker turn when legal issues arose. In November of 2019, Milford police arrested him on charges of assault, leading to a court-issued protective order. The case remained unresolved, with court records showing it was still pending and a new court date scheduled for April 14th of 2023. Yuan maintained his innocence by pleading not guilty and was released on a $20,000 bond while awaiting trial. His troubled past also included a disturbing incident shortly after the birth of his child, when reports indicated he had thrown a large object at Julie, his partner, and destroyed her phone to prevent her from calling for help. Fearing for her safety, Julie sought refuge at a neighbor's house and contacted authorities. This episode underscored the severity of Yuan's behavior and its impact on those around him. In 2021, Yuan faced additional charges, including assaulting emergency personnel and a woman in Wake County, North Carolina. Court records show he pleaded guilty and received a combined jail sentence of 95 days, though the exact length of incarceration remains unclear. These encounters with the law revealed a troubling pattern of aggressive and concerning conduct. Multiple protective orders had been issued against Yuan due to previous domestic violence incidents aimed at safeguarding Julie and their children. One such incident involved Yuan, intoxicated, engaging in a heated argument with Julie, during which he reportedly threw a playpen at her head, causing injury. These episodes collectively paint a picture of a troubled individual with a history of violence and legal troubles, raising serious questions about his character and the impact of his actions on those around him. In her efforts to seek safety, Julie took the initiative to file a restraining order against Yuan, aiming to protect herself from his harmful behavior. Despite this, she was still granted visitation rights, which left her feeling uneasy and concerned for everyone's safety. The strained relationship between Julie, Yuan, and their child Luke became increasingly complicated, leading to a series of family court disputes starting in 2021. It all began when Julie petitioned for child support in August of that year. By October, a judge ruled in her favor, ordering Yuan to provide financial assistance. As tensions grew, Yuan filed a custody case in December, seeking to clarify visitation arrangements. The court eventually intervened, granting supervised visitation for Yuan in April of the following year, with a further hearing scheduled for April of the next year to resolve remaining issues. These legal conflicts highlighted the complex and often painful process of navigating post-relationship disputes. As the investigation into Julie's last days unfolded, new disturbing details emerged. On November 14th, 2022, just 3 weeks before her death, Julie visited the Milford Police Department to file a complaint against Yuan. She reported that he had sent her over 200 text messages within a mere 2 days, despite a protective order explicitly forbidding any contact. Officer Scott Nain listened carefully to her concerns and collected evidence from her phone, strengthening the case against Yuan. In her heartfelt plea for protection, Julie expressed deep fears for her safety and that of her children. In a sworn affidavit submitted on November 17th, she declared her determination to end the ongoing abuse, stating she could no longer endure the mistreatment. She also revealed that Yuan struggled with substance abuse and was dangerous, fearing he might harm her or worse. Officer Nain, committed to justice, prepared an arrest warrant for Yuan, alleging he had violated the protective order. This warrant was reviewed by a supervisor to ensure its accuracy and sufficiency, confirming that the evidence, particularly the text messages, violated the order issued in January of 2021. On November 21st, the warrant application was submitted to the Milford State's Attorney's Office. However, the process hit a snag when the Assistant State's Attorney, prioritizing thoroughness, returned the application for additional information before proceeding. Every step in this delicate legal process required meticulous attention to detail. Despite these setbacks, Julie's efforts culminated successfully on December 1st, 2022, when her case moved forward, bringing her closer to justice and hopefully some measure of safety. On a day marked by urgency and tragedy, a judge granted a civil restraining order after a hearing lasting roughly an hour. During this session, Julie presented compelling evidence. text messages revealing her struggles with substance abuse, mental health challenges, and a history of violence. She expressed deep concern for Yuan's well-being, describing his bipolar rage and unpredictable behavior, emphasizing the critical need for him to receive proper treatment and therapy. Julie was convinced that Yuan posed a danger to others and should be kept away until he obtained the necessary help. Recognizing the imminent threat, the court swiftly issued a no-contact restraining order on December 1st, 2022, providing legal protection against any further interaction with Yuan. Tragically, just 5 days later, Yuan murdered Julie with an axe inside her condominium. All evidence pointed to Yuan as the primary suspect, prompting relentless police efforts to locate him. Officers combed the area around the Salem Walk condominium, leaving no detail unchecked. Their investigation led them to a dive bar on Ocean Avenue in West Haven, where they enlisted the local community's help. Patrons were approached and informed about the case, urged to report any sightings of Yuan. During this coordinated effort, 2 vigilant individuals spotted someone matching Yuan's description. Eager to assist, they quickly alerted the police, providing vital information about the suspect's location. One witness, who chose to remain anonymous, reported seeing a man resembling Yuan wandering in the parking lot for a brief period before entering a food truck there. Acting swiftly, law enforcement officers responded to the scene without incident and apprehended Yuan on December 6th, 2022, bringing him into custody and narrowing the focus of their investigation. Following his arrest, police subjected Yuan to a thorough interrogation. At first, he remained silent, withholding crucial details. However, after hours of intense questioning, he finally broke his silence, confessing to the brutal murder of Julie with an axe. Yuan explained that he had silently entered her house through the kitchen window, hiding in anticipation of her arrival. When Julie entered the kitchen, he launched his attack with deadly intent. During this horrifying act, Julie's son Nicholas came downstairs and confronted the scene, overwhelmed with fear. Yuan fled the scene, leaving the axe behind on the gas stove. His confession shocked investigators and shed light on the tragic events of that night. Yuan's initial court appearance took place in the State Superior Court in Milford on December 7th, 2022, where Assistant State Attorney Alana Pa presented the case. On December 14th, 2022, the court was informed of recent developments in the case. The prosecutor revealed that Yuan had fully admitted to the incident, yet even without this confession, the evidence against him was compelling. Attorney Paul pointed to surveillance footage and the testimony of Julie's son, who had witnessed part of the event. Given the case's seriousness, Paul argued that a substantial bond was essential. Judge Arden Grogan set Yuan's bond at $5 million, citing concerns over his history of ignoring court orders and emphasizing the need to protect public safety. As a precaution, Yuan was placed on suicide watch, with a hearing scheduled for December 14th, 2022, to further address the case. Finally, on that same day, the court reached its final decision. In addition to the murder charge, Yuan faced multiple other accusations brought by Milford police, including violations of protective and restraining orders, risk of injury to a minor, and reckless endangerment. These charges aim to reflect the broader scope of Yuan's alleged misconduct and its impact. A hearing for Yuan's pending criminal cases was set for April 6th, 2023. He had yet to enter a plea, though prosecutors stated he had already confessed to Julie Mined's murder. Police had not released further details about the upcoming hearing. The victim's family expressed their resolve to pursue justice and hold accountable those responsible for neglecting their duties. They also hoped this case would serve as a catalyst for improved protections for victims of domestic violence and abuse. With unwavering determination, the family seeks to bring about meaningful change to prevent future tragedies. This case involved both diligent law enforcement efforts and the tragic act of a killer driven by rage. The perpetrator, who murdered his ex-girlfriend, exemplifies the devastating consequences of unchecked violence. Tess Ritchie was born on November 30th, 1994, the youngest of 5 sisters. Raised in North Bay, she later moved to Toronto. Her sister Vina recalled that Tess loved her life, her dogs, and her family. She had worked as a waitress in the city, but dreamed of becoming a flight attendant and traveling the world. To pursue this goal, Tess completed a flight attendant training program at Seneca College in North Toronto. Concurrently, she sought employment at major hotels in Toronto. Unfortunately, Tess struggled to find a suitable job. Her family supported her financially and never hesitated to help when she asked. According to some Canadian sources, when airline or hotel jobs didn't materialize, Tess began learning Italian and searched online for work opportunities in Italy. She also maintained a YouTube channel, with her last video uploaded shortly before her tragic death. On February 23, 2014, almost 4 years before the events we will discuss, Tess shared her personal experiences and the challenges she faced. Let's listen to some excerpts from that interview. Sadly, a few years later, she encountered further hardships that shattered her life. On the 23rd of November, 2017, Tess endured a painful breakup with her boyfriend, Julian. The following day, she turned to her older sister, Rachel, who was 8 years her senior. The two shared a close bond, and Rachel described Tess as her soulmate. That November 24th, Tess spent most of the day at Rachel's Toronto home. They talked about her breakup, went shopping, and visited a nearby dog park. That evening, Rachel prepared some food, but had to persuade Tess to eat, as stress had robbed her of her appetite. Despite her distress, Tess made plans to go out that night. She decided to meet an old school friend named Riley Samar, who, like Richie, had moved from North Bay to Toronto in the summer of that year. The two hadn't seen each other in years, but reconnecting in the same city rekindled their friendship. Samar suggested they visit Cruise and Tango, a popular drag bar in the Wellesley area. That night, Rachel's partner ordered an Uber so Tess could meet Samar downtown. Rachel vividly recalled seeing her sister run down the front path to the vehicle. That fleeting moment would be the last time she saw Tess alive. Tess arrived at Cruise and Tango around midnight. Samar hadn't yet reached the club, which was crowded with patrons. Tess texted her sister to confirm she had arrived safely. Her phone was her constant companion, and her sister noted that Tess always kept in touch. The following morning, Rachel received a message from Samar, but she didn't expect an immediate reply, knowing Tess had been out the night before. By 6:30 that evening, Rachel still hadn't heard from her sister. Soon after, she realized her texts hadn't gone through, and her calls went straight to voicemail. Their mother, Christine Hermiston, also tried to contact Tess, but her phone was off. Christine received a message indicating that Tess had ordered an Uber at 4 o'clock in the morning, though she canceled it shortly after. Since Tess's Uber account was linked to her mother's credit card, Christine received notifications each time her daughter used a taxi. Tess was known for staying in close contact with her family, so her phone's silence throughout the day raised immediate concerns. Rachel asked her partner to check Tess's apartment in Scarborough, and she began reaching out to friends around 9 that evening, worried about her sister's whereabouts. On Saturday, Tess was still missing, and her family felt a growing sense of dread. Rachel began calling hospitals and contacting the police, but by the evening of the following day, there was still no news. Several officers tried to locate Tess or Richie, but no one had seen or heard from her in the past 2 days. On Monday, Tess's mother, Christine, along with her sister, traveled from North Bay to Toronto to join the search efforts. They distributed flyers bearing Tess's picture, hoping someone might have seen her. Despite their determined efforts, the police investigation into Tess's disappearance was disappointing, lacking the thoroughness and urgency it deserved, something that would become clearer later. Meanwhile, Tess's friend Riley, with whom she had visited the bar that night, returned home safely. When asked about Tess's whereabouts, Riley explained that they had consumed a lot of alcohol, which led to the bar's security asking them to leave. After leaving the bar shortly after 2 in the morning, they headed to Wellesley Street to get something to eat. On the way, they encountered a man who eventually accompanied them, though Riley couldn't recall his name. At Wellesley Street, Tess ordered a vegetarian hot dog, but a dispute arose when she believed she was served a hot dog with meat. Riley admitted that Tess had taken mustard and sprayed it at the vendor's cart. Afterward, the group hurried to Dundonald Street, where they saw a woman on a porch and struck up a conversation. Her name was Michelle, and they talked for about 20 minutes. Tess confided in Michelle about her recent breakup with her boyfriend, sharing how difficult it was. Michelle offered support, and they exchanged phone numbers. Riley later remarked that Tess seemed like someone trying to enjoy herself, but her eyes revealed deep sadness, likely weighed down by her breakup with Julian. Tess told Michelle that she was trying to stay positive, and Michelle reassured her that things would improve with time. Around 4 o'clock in the morning, Riley received a text from her boyfriend, asking her to come home. She said goodbye to Tess and headed toward Young Street, then home. Tess was disappointed that Riley had left her alone at 4:02 a.m. and decided to order an Uber. The driver arrived at 4:14, and it's reasonable to assume that Tess, after her friend's departure, chose to go home herself. On Wednesday, November 29th, just a day before Tess's 23rd birthday, she was nowhere to be found. Christine, her mother, had previously distributed flyers featuring Tess's picture in the area where she was last seen, knowing that Riley had parted ways with her on Dundonald Street. Driven by concern, Christine decided to investigate that neighborhood herself. She approached a nurse named Brazo, who worked at St. Michael's Hospital and had been friends with Tess and Riley since elementary school in North Bay. Together, they launched a search amid mounting efforts and social media campaigns to locate Tess. It was during this search that Brazo made a chilling discovery. Peering into the bottom of an outdoor stairwell at a construction site on Church Street, she immediately recognized Tess's body lying motionless on the concrete. The building was under renovation and partially fenced off, which made the scene even more shocking. Brazo described her reaction as one of complete shock and horror, unable to comprehend what she was seeing. Tears streaming down her face, she recounted how she felt terrified and overwhelmed by the sight. As Brazo let go of the railing and stepped back, she called out to Hermiston, Tess's friend who was nearby. Brazo told her to come back because she had seen a girl in the stairwell. Hermiston, unaware of how close her friend's body was, hurried toward the stairwell and froze in horror upon seeing it. After a few moments of silence, she began to scream and pray for help. Tess's death was a devastating blow to her family. She was found just 300 yards from the bar where she had spent time before vanishing, and only 20 yards from the last place Riley saw her. This proximity raised serious questions about police efforts, as her body was located only a few blocks from the bar. Despite the initial belief that her death might not involve foul play, new information emerged from an anonymous police source. It was alleged that Tess had advertised intimate services online and worked at a strip club. Her mother, Christine, was furious, criticizing the police for not doing enough to find Tess. She insisted that her daughter was not involved in the sex trade, calling the police's suggestion a malicious lie meant to portray her as living a risky lifestyle. Tess had worked as a waitress at a strip club but had quit less than 2 weeks after starting. The claim that she advertised intimate services was based on a dating site account, not evidence of sex work. Although her body was found at the scene, there was no clear explanation of what had happened. Initially, police did not suspect foul play, but after an autopsy, they confirmed she had died from neck compression. Seminal fluid on her clothes and saliva on her bra contained traces of male DNA, prompting the homicide unit to take over the investigation. Detectives focused on identifying the man Tess had been with that night, especially since Riley testified that Tess had stayed with someone after Riley went home. CCTV footage played a crucial role, showing Tess and Riley leaving the bar and walking toward a hot dog vendor's cart. Additional cameras near the site where Brazo found her captured Tess and an unknown man walking hand in hand up the gravel driveway around Chetir Sorak Chetir AM. The footage revealed Tess with this man raising questions about his identity and what transpired that night. Approximately 46 minutes after the initial sighting, a recording captured a man leaving the scene alone, and he was never seen in the footage again. This led authorities to believe he was the primary suspect in the Tess Ritchie case. During a press conference on December 10th, Toronto police released images of this individual, captured by a surveillance camera, in hopes that someone might recognize him. The photos, taken near the location where Ritchie had purchased hot dogs that evening, were of poor quality, as they were recorded by an ATM camera positioned close to the scene. Remarkably, after viewing the images, the suspect himself contacted the police station claiming, "I'm the guy in the photo." He identified himself as the person who was with Tess that night. The suspect was a 21-year-old named Kayan Schlatter, who at the time lived with his parents and younger brother in North Toronto. He had recently completed a year of postgraduate studies as a car mechanic and worked alongside his father in construction. Schlatter, his parents, and a lawyer briefly met with detectives at the police station. During the visit, his parents brought food and water for him. While there, Schlatter discarded an empty water bottle into a trash can, which police promptly seized for forensic analysis. The investigation revealed that DNA from the bottle matched samples taken from seminal fluid and saliva found on Tess Ritchie's body, confirming his involvement. Although police initially planned an undercover operation to monitor Schlatter for several weeks, the DNA evidence expedited the process. Consequently, he was arrested around 11 o'clock in the evening on February 4th, 2018, after spending the evening watching the Super Bowl with his family at Klex Cinemas on Queensway in Toronto. He was then taken to 13 Division and held in a detention cell at 3:19 a.m. On February 5th, two men were detained in separate holding cells adjacent to Schlatter, who had no idea that both were undercover officers. Unaware of their identities, he was about to unknowingly provide them with a wealth of evidence. Each man was confined in a plain, windowless cell, equipped with a combined toilet, sink, and a simple bed. Schlatter's cell was positioned between the two officers, with all three facing the same wall, preventing any visual contact. Despite this, they engaged in hours of conversation through the walls. During these exchanges, Schlatter shared details about his love for card games and his talent for seducing women. He claimed to have slept with over 40 women by the age of 21, though he did not disclose his attraction to both men and women, a detail that surfaced later. It was revealed that he did not meet Tess and her friend, Riley, on the street. Rather, he was in the same bar as them when he first noticed them. This recording was made shortly before security personnel asked Tess and Riley to leave the establishment. Schlatter also discussed Tess with the undercover officers. Initially, he stated she was alive when he left, but soon afterwards he suggested that something might have happened to her because alcohol had clouded his memory. He insisted he was not capable of harm. The police charged him with the murder of Tess Ritchie, a claim he vehemently denied. In June of 2018, two police officers, Alan McCullough and Michael Jones, faced misconduct charges under Ontario's Police Services Act for neglecting their duties. According to the hearing notice, they allegedly failed to thoroughly search the nearby property, interview neighbors, or notify a supervisor, despite protocol indicating they should have. Christine Hermiston testified that if they had followed proper procedures, they would have found her, as she was just around the corner. Nonetheless, both officers continued their duties, receiving only penalties. Regarding Schlatter's trial in 2020, which lasted 7 weeks, his defense argued that someone else could have approached the stairs where Tess was found by climbing over a fence on the opposite side of the building, thus remaining unseen on security cameras. They even named another suspect, but police investigations and DNA analysis found no evidence linking anyone else to Tess's death. The DNA evidence pointed solely to Schlatter. In court, Schlatter appeared as a slight soft-spoken man, explaining that he has a speech defect causing him to slur and stutter at times. To clarify the presence of his DNA on Tess's belongings, he stated that she had offered him a hiding place from prying eyes. The timeline indicated that Tess Ritchie ordered an Uber at 4 o'clock, 20 minutes past 4 in the morning, with the driver arriving at the pickup point at 4:14. Instead of Tess being there, Ritchie was supposed to meet her, but Schlatter approached her first. They sat together on a bench at the corner of Church and Dundonald, where Tess appeared visibly upset from an argument. Sensing her distress, I approached to check on her well-being. Schlatter claimed that Ritchie had asked him to sit and talk with Tess, though verifying this is impossible since security cameras in the area recorded no sound and showed no clear evidence. According to Schlatter, Ritchie was upset over a recent breakup, so he began sharing stories about a past relationship to comfort her. Tess listened carefully and even turned down a phone call during their conversation, which turned out to be false, Police later found no record of any calls to her at that time. Later, Tess asked if she could kiss me, and we stood up, sharing a hug and a kiss. However, these moments could not be confirmed by CCTV footage, which showed no such physical contact. Schlatter testified that Ritchie had asked him to follow Tess to the driveway at Piazza Vosemdesia Divio Church Street and down into the outdoor stairwell of the property. The prosecution argued this was false, suggesting that Schlatter's real plan was different, as the Uber driver was waiting for Tess nearby. It remains unknown what Schlatter told Tess to persuade her to walk into the darkness at 4 o'clock in the morning, leaving the true intentions shrouded in mystery. After a man she had just met claimed that he and Tess descended the stairs together and shared a long kiss, Schlatter insisted he wanted more, but Tess refused to go further. According to Schlatter, their kiss lasted quite a while, during which he ejaculated into his pants. He then invited Tess to his home, but she declined and told him to leave, which he did. Schlatter maintained that Tess was alive when he left, though this account remained unverified by authorities, as only 2 people knew the truth about that night, one of whom was already deceased. At the trial, the prosecution's witnesses included Tess's friend Riley and Michelle Tepp, a woman Tess had spoken with that evening. Both identified Schlatter as the man involved. Notably, Schlatter reportedly confided in 2 undercover officers and a cellmate during 2 months of detention in Toronto in 2018. The cellmate, known only as Yes due to a publication ban, had a criminal record stretching back decades, including burglaries and domestic violence. Yes claimed he initially felt sorry for Schlatter, as it was his first time in jail, and invited him to share a cell. However, over time, Yes grew to resent his cellmate, who would cry himself to sleep, expressing fear of prison and longing for his mother. Yes also alleged that Schlatter confided details about his kiss with Tess and his loss of control when she refused to go further, claiming he strangled her with a scarf. In court, Schlatter denied these conversations, with his lawyer dismissing Yes as a manipulative liar. Despite conflicting testimony, physical evidence pointed to someone having strangled Tess, with only Schlatter's DNA found on her clothing. In her closing argument, defense lawyer Lydia Rava depicted Schlatter as a harmless, naive young man, emphasizing that the justice system can err. She argued that Schlatter was an easy target and blamed. On March 23, 2020, the jury convicted Schlatter, and the judge sentenced him to life imprisonment with the possibility of parole after 25 years. The trial was devastating for Tess's mother, sisters, and supporters, who watched as their loved one's life was cut short. While they finally uncovered some truths, their lives were irrevocably changed, and they faced a future shadowed by grief. Tess's sister Vina mourned, saying Tess was the heart of their family, and that they would forever feel incomplete. In June of that year, Tess Ritchie's family filed a lawsuit against Schlatter and the police, seeking justice for her tragic death. Following Tess's death, the profound psychological trauma left many feeling devastated and overwhelmed. Some wanted only to retreat into their homes and hide from the pain, yet they found themselves unable to do so. The images of her lying there for 4 days haunted them, seared into their minds forever, as Christine Hermiston painfully recalled. Hermiston also expressed that she shouldn't have had to travel from North Bay, Ontario to Toronto just to handle what should have been police responsibilities. Her family considered Tessa the cornerstone that held them together. Her loss has shattered their unity. Her mother admitted that they now struggle even to look at each other, feeling as though they failed her and are burdened with guilt. Their grief fuels their ongoing fight to honor Tessa's memory, determined not to let her down again. They are seeking $20 million in damages, including punitive damages, as part of their pursuit of justice. Sometimes confronting a painful truth is preferable to living with endless uncertainty. Maria Leon believed this when her 16-year-old daughter disappeared without a trace. Initially, hope persisted that her daughter would be found alive, but as time passed, that hope faded. Maria began praying not only for her daughter's safe return, but also for the chance to give her a proper farewell if she had died. Yet no one could have foreseen how horrifying the outcome would be. The murder of young Melanie Stacy Amaya shocked Colombia with its brutality and the shocking revelation that the perpetrators were ordinary teenagers, recently involved in romantic relationships. To understand how a boy driven by love turned into a cold-blooded killer, we must examine the case from the beginning. We will explore whether adult oversight failed and if this tragedy could have been prevented. Melanie Stacy Amaya was born on February 21st, 2002, in the small town of San Rafael, Northern Colombia. She was the eldest daughter in a modest family of Maria Leon and William Amaya, and 2 years later her younger sister Natalie was born. From a young age, Melanie was close to her family, sharing secrets and forming strong bonds with her mother and sister. She displayed creative talent early on, drawing beautifully and developing a passion for cosmetics. She loved painting her dolls' faces as well as those of her family and friends, dreaming of becoming a stylist and makeup artist someday. Academically gifted, Melanie excelled at school, with teachers describing her as talented and driven. Her natural charisma and friendly nature made her a bright presence in any room, and her attractive appearance, complemented by her skillful use of cosmetics, drew many friends both inside and outside school. However, her life took a tragic turn when she was 14 as her parents filed for divorce. Despite their separation, they maintained a cordial relationship, but the emotional upheaval marked a difficult chapter in her young life. An unwavering father maintained close bonds with his daughters, providing both financial support and active engagement in their lives. About 6 months later, Maria began dating a young man named Ruben Morales, whom she soon married. Following their wedding, the family moved to Medellin, a major Colombian city where Ruben secured stable employment. The move opened new opportunities for the girl's education and personal development. The stepfather quickly built a strong, positive relationship with his teenage stepdaughters, investing generously in their schooling and hobbies. He treated them with genuine care, making them feel loved and supported, and ensured they enjoyed a more comfortable life. During high school, Melanie started displaying a rebellious streak, becoming deeply interested in music and contemplating leaving school to pursue it full-time. She asked for a DJ mixing desk for her birthday and adorned herself with large, brightly colored tattoos on her arms, back, chest, and leg. Her parents, while not outright forbidding her quest for self-expression, were shocked to learn she had experimented with illegal substances. Melanie's unconventional behavior and appearance masked a deeper struggle, which ultimately contributed to her tragic end. On her 14th birthday in 2016, Melanie decided to host a party, inviting friends and a DJ. Lacking funds for a professional, she contacted 16-year-old Miguel Angel Pera, an aspiring but talented disc jockey. After some deliberation, Melanie chose to hire him. Miguel's natural talent and charisma quickly captivated her. Their connection deepened, and within weeks they were often seen walking together in parks and around the city, openly expressing their affection. Melanie introduced him as her boyfriend, and they became inseparable. Miguel came from modest means but treated Melanie with respect and admiration. He was charming and warm when meeting her parents, earning their acceptance and support. Over time, he spent more time at their home, becoming integrated into the family dynamic. Miguel confided in Melanie's parents about struggles at home. His mother disapproved of his involvement in music lessons, leading to conflicts that ended with him being physically harmed and eventually evicted. Maria offered him temporary shelter, unaware of the potential risks of introducing a disruptive influence into their household. Consequently, Melanie and Miguel's relationship deepened, and they began cohabiting, initially without fully understanding the implications of their union. For 6 months, the teenagers experienced a blissful period of harmony, their happiness rooted in newfound closeness. However, as time went on, Miguel's true nature gradually surfaced, revealing traits that negatively affected Melanie. Her academic performance declined sharply, and her behavior and appearance grew increasingly provocative. She began to decorate herself with tattoos and expressed intentions to abandon her education altogether. Their disagreements became more frequent, initially resolved outside the home, but eventually spilling into their family space. Maria grew deeply concerned when she discovered Melanie was involved in illegal drug use supplied by Miguel. Confronting her daughter, Maria received a tearful admission that Melanie had experimented with drugs on a limited scale and promised to cease such behavior. Despite deciding that Miguel's influence was harmful enough to warrant his departure, Melanie intervened, promising to improve her conduct and that of Miguel's. Reluctantly, Maria and Ruben agreed, but their decision soon proved problematic. Unexplained bruises appeared on Melanie's body, yet she consistently attributed them to sports or clumsiness, avoiding suspicion of abuse. 6 months later, a violent incident shattered the fragile peace. Miguel assaulted Melanie so severely that she required medical care. Maria considered reporting the assault to the police, but Melanie dissuaded her, insisting she would deny everything and refuse to accuse her partner. Despite efforts by her parents to separate the couple and prevent them from living together, Melanie threatened to run away with Miguel if they intervened. Their toxic relationship persisted for over 2 years until Melanie finally recognized its destructive impact. In early May of 2018, another intense argument erupted, escalating into physical violence. This time, Melanie took control, telling Miguel that their relationship was over. She demanded he pack his belongings and leave immediately, warning she would call the police if he refused. Miguel complied but later sought her forgiveness, yet he could not let go emotionally. His obsession grew as he began stalking Melanie, tracking her whereabouts, monitoring her interactions, and sending messages that ranged from apologies and declarations of love to death threats. Concerned for her safety, Ruben sought a restraining order against Miguel. However, law enforcement dismissed the case, perceiving the situation as teenage drama rather than genuine danger. Maria also contacted the prosecutor's office, but no decisive action was taken. Despite recognizing the potential danger Miguel might pose, authorities failed to take her seriously. They wrongly assumed that an 18-year-old young man was unlikely to harm his former partner, a misconception rooted in their unfamiliarity with his true nature. Nearly 2 months had passed since the couple's breakup, and Miguel appeared to have calmed down, no longer seeking contact with Melanie. During this time, Melanie resumed her normal life. Her school grades improved noticeably. She spent time with friends and practiced music. Her parents, too, found no reason for concern, gradually pushing Miguel from their minds as if he were a distant, unpleasant memory. On June 28, 2018, Melanie was excited about attending her close friend's birthday celebration at one of the city's most popular nightclubs. To look her best, she carefully chose her outfit, applied makeup, and styled her hair. Once ready, she said goodbye to her mother, promising she wouldn't be out too late. Confident in her daughter's judgment, her mother trusted Melanie's friends and didn't worry excessively as Melanie left in a waiting taxi. However, the following morning, concern replaced her confidence. Melanie hadn't returned home and her phone was turned off, an alarming sign. Despite her distress, her mother tried to remain composed, convincing herself that teenagers often lost track of time or that Melanie's phone might have run out of battery. By midday, Maria called Isaac, Melanie's father, and was devastated to learn she never arrived at the party. None of her friends or classmates had seen or heard from her, deepening her anxiety. Maria's frantic calls to her daughter's acquaintances yielded no clues about Melanie's whereabouts. In response, she contacted William, Melanie's father, who immediately rushed over. Along with Ruben, her stepfather, they went to file a missing persons report at the police station. Unfortunately, they encountered bureaucratic indifference. Officials insisted they wait 24 hours and suggested Melanie might simply be sleeping at a friend's house after the celebration. Refusing to wait passively, Melanie's parents and Ruben took matters into their own hands. They mobilized relatives and friends, reaching out to everyone who might have information. They visited familiar places Melanie might have gone and distributed hundreds of flyers across the city, hoping to find any lead on her location. The story then shifts to the unsettling case of Bruce Miller. Bruce was a genuinely kind man, burdened by the weight of responsibility. He worked tirelessly, often without rest, to support his family. His life was dedicated to his wife's happiness, serving as her protector, supporter, and anchor of stability. Yet, in a cruel twist of fate, The narrative hints at a darker side of his story, suggesting that beneath his caring exterior, there may have been more complex and troubling aspects. Instead of being rewarded for his unwavering dedication and love, Bruce became the unfortunate victim of a brutal crime. He fell into the dark underbelly of the internet, where his feelings for Sherry deepened after he hired her and helped raise her 3 children. Over time, their bond blossomed into love, and within 2 years, Bruce was completely consumed by his emotions. Driven by a desire to create a stable, united family, he decided to adopt her children, envisioning a shared home for all of them. However, Sherry concealed her true motives behind a facade of affection. While Bruce believed in their promising future together, she was leading a double life, deceiving him at every turn. The computer Bruce had purchased for her was not merely a gift, but a tool in her sinister plan. Instead of using it to grow her business, she exploited it to plot his murder. Realizing that divorce would not yield the wealth she sought, Sherry resorted to drastic measures, manipulating Bruce's feelings and turning him into an unwitting instrument in her cruel scheme. This case stands out as a pioneering example of how online interactions can be exploited for criminal purposes, marking one of the earliest instances where internet communication played a decisive role in a legal case. Such incidents are increasingly common today, a stark contrast to the early days of the internet, when users remained unaware that their online activities could be tracked or recovered. Like many others at the time, Sherry had no idea that deleted messages could later be retrieved, illustrating the peril of chatting with strangers online and how easily one's life can be irrevocably altered through digital communication. There are always individuals who unexpectedly find themselves at the center of mysteries and intrigue, and Bruce was undoubtedly among them. His story is filled with secrets and unforeseen twists, beginning with his birth on July 26th, 1951 in Flint, Michigan. In his youth, Bruce worked as a mechanic at the General Motors factory, but he later shifted his path by opening a salvage yard, dealing in cars and reselling spare parts. Despite handling large sums of cash and interacting with diverse social groups, he was known as a generous and kind-hearted man. Occasionally, he even bent the law, such as falsifying license plates, though such acts were rare. Bruce's romantic life was marked by a series of marriages, both ending in divorce, until fate finally brought him his true love, Sherry Miller. Sherry often exhibited unusual behaviors. Her friends observed that she seemed to be crafting a new identity online, engaging in flirtatious conversations with strangers. Opinions about her were divided. Some believed Bruce was aware of her online activities, but chose to ignore them, preferring to maintain the status quo. Bruce valued his marriage deeply and cherished the life he shared with Sherry, especially his efforts to adopt her children. Sherry, in turn, aimed to preserve their marital bond. She genuinely cared for Bruce and appreciated the comfortable lifestyle he provided, even as she secretly misused his trust for her own ends. Shortly after their wedding, Bruce and Sherry began using credit cards, but this did not significantly disturb their relationship, which remained as tumultuous as Sherry's personal life. During the day, they maintained a routine focused on work, while their evenings were reserved for intimate moments. Amid this familial semblance, Sherry's online persona started to evolve as her confidence grew. Her chat interactions became increasingly explicit, often centered on sexual topics with various men under different aliases such as Horny24, Love Me Slowly, and I Want to Be Seduced. Rather than sticking with familiar contacts, she preferred engaging with new strangers, especially once boredom set in, initiating cycles of flirtation with different individuals. She described these exchanges as playful games, where each new interaction represented a step forward that boosted her sense of invincibility. This detached attitude eventually led Sherry down a dangerous path. During her frequent online activities, she met Jerry Cassidy, a former police officer living in Reno, Nevada. Their connection quickly deepened into romantic feelings, and Jerry became a significant figure in her life, contrasting with her previous online acquaintances. They even renamed their accounts, with Sherry adopting Jerry's alias Jerry's Fool, and he taking on Sherry's Fool. Their digital exchanges ranged from casual texting and flirtation to sharing nude photographs and sexually suggestive messages, including explicit videos featuring Sherry herself. It's important to remember that all of this occurred in Adna tisiacha deviat sot devianosto deviat, a time when such actions were far more complex to execute than today's technology allows. Jerry was born on October 6, 1960 in Kansas City, Missouri. From a young age, he was passionate about hunting and aspired to join the FBI, planning to start his law enforcement career with the Montana Police. Sherry served as a detective in the homicide division for 9 years, eventually rising to the rank of lieutenant. However, her career took a downturn when she uncovered internal corruption involving fraudulent documents within her department. Acting responsibly, she reported her findings to her superiors, but this led to her colleagues branding her a snitch and ostracizing her, which threatened her career. The situation worsened until she was demoted, prompting her to resign in 1994. This decision profoundly affected Jerry, who then struggled with alcohol, substance abuse, and depression. Soon after, Sherry's wife divorced her, further impacting her life by stripping her of visitation rights to their son. Despite these hardships, Sherry managed to regain some stability by working as a security officer at a Kansas City hotel and casino. After relocating to Reno, Jerry found employment at a different casino, and during this period he met Sherry through an online platform. Their relationship quickly shifted from digital interaction to real-life meetings, but it was far from a genuine romance. Instead, Sherry began to manipulate Jerry for her own benefit. Her influence over him became increasingly apparent to those close to Jerry, who observed signs of emotional instability. He would be exuberant when Sherry was nearby and profoundly despondent when she was absent. Soon, Sherry started her deceitful schemes. In September, she falsely claimed she was pregnant with Jerry's child. Not long after, she alleged a miscarriage caused by Bruce, whom she falsely portrayed as abusive. In reality, Bruce was a responsible family man, not the dangerous figure Sherry depicted. Unaware of the truth, Jerry was devastated. Losing the unborn child and believing Sherry had suffered violence became unbearable for him. Meanwhile, Sherry discouraged Jerry from confronting Bruce, warning him that Bruce had powerful connections and wealth that would retaliate if they challenged him. A month later, Sherry fabricated another story, claiming she was pregnant with twins. This was especially shocking because in 1995, Sherry had undergone a tubal ligation, making pregnancy impossible. She had never disclosed this fact to Jerry, revealing the depth of her deception. On the 5th of November, 1999, Jerry received a troubling email supposedly from Bruce. It claimed Sherry was gaining weight due to the pregnancy and expressed her desire for an abortion to shed the extra pounds. Anxious, Jerry tried to contact Sherry but only managed a brief text in which she said she needed to leave for a few days. The next day, another message, supposedly from Bruce, arrived, stating Sherry would soon return home and that the abortion had been successful. The message also implied she could no longer conceive. Accompanying this was a staged photo of Sherry covered in bruises. Overcome with rage, Jerry contacted Sherry, and they concluded that Bruce had to be eliminated. They meticulously planned every detail, routes, parking spots, and the ideal location for their act. Driven by his mounting fury, Jerry left his home that very evening, heading toward Michigan. Meanwhile, Bruce, preparing to leave work later, received a call from Sherry asking him to pick up pizza, a distraction that played into their scheme. During this phone conversation, Bruce failed to notice Jerry approaching from behind, who then pointed a .20 caliber gun at him. Before pulling the trigger, Jerry, having committed the crime, returned home, while Sherry began her next phase of cover-up. She contacted Bruce's brother, Chuck, expressing concern that Bruce hadn't yet come back. Her worry soon turned into alarm, prompting Chuck and his wife to investigate. They found Bruce's body in the yard, horror-stricken, and immediately called the authorities. Initially, police suspected robbery, with Bruce's old friend, John Hutchinson, as the prime suspect. John owed over $5,000 to his employer and had a history linked to Shaw. His weak alibi and failed polygraph test cast further doubt, leading to his detention for questioning. However, lacking concrete evidence, he was eventually released and the case went cold. At first, investigators considered Sherry's behavior after her husband's death appropriate, unaware of her true motives. Soon she was seen enjoying parties frequently, and she quickly secured an insurance payout, sold her business, and withdrew substantial funds from family accounts, amassing wealth overnight. Amid her newfound prosperity, she invited her new partner to live in the house she had shared with Bruce. Her relationship with Jerry dissolved abruptly after Bruce's death, revealing that Sherry had fallen for another man. Jerry, overwhelmed with guilt, reflected on the terrible crime they had committed together. Having worked in law enforcement for many years, he realized he had been merely a pawn in Sherry's scheme. She had manipulated his emotions to eliminate her husband, and he finally understood that Bruce was innocent. None of the fabricated accusations, no abuse, violence, or involvement with children, had any basis, and even the photographs used as evidence dated back to 1994. 3 months later, on February 11th, Jerry Cassidy chose to end his life. He was found alone in his apartment, rented from his cousin, with a .22 caliber rifle beside him. Among his belongings were letters to his family, a note, and a briefcase addressed to his lawyer, John O'Connor. When John opened the case, he discovered undeniable evidence of a crime that sealed Sherry's fate. Alongside other pieces of evidence uncovered after Jerry's death, Jerry had confessed to killing Bruce, placing all blame on Sherry. His note detailed how he intended to hand over all evidence to the police, expressing deep regret and admitting he had been manipulated into the act. He explained that Sherry's sole aim was to secure money and eliminate her husband, succeeding in her plan but ignoring the destruction along the way. This shocking revelation prompted authorities to act swiftly, leading to new investigations and ultimately sealing Sherry's downfall. Sherry was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The trial began 10 months later on December 12th. Due to the case's connection to the internet, public interest was exceptionally high. During the proceedings, Sher maintained her innocence, with her defense arguing that Jerry had fabricated evidence out of guilt. They also attempted to shift blame onto JN. Evidence included disturbing messages between Sher and JN discussing firearm use. It was revealed that, the day after her husband's death, Sher changed her first and last names, as well as her address. She repeated this after Jerry's death. The case concluded swiftly, and after only 2 days of jury deliberation, Sher Miller was found guilty of second-degree murder. On January 9, 2001, she was sentenced to life imprisonment. However, her defense raised concerns about the trial's fairness, notably questioning the admissibility of Jerry's letter as evidence. These issues had serious implications, leading to a retrial ordered by a judge in 2008. Consequently, Sher was released from prison in July 2009, pending further proceedings. For over 3 years, she was free, with access to the internet and dating sites. Many, especially the families of Bruce and Jerry, opposed her release, viewing it as a technicality. In August 2012, the district court reversed its decision, and Sher was returned to prison, where she remains to this day. During her time at large, Sher reconnected with her children, which had a profoundly positive effect on her. In April 2016, she wrote a letter admitting guilt, despite her previous denials. She explained her initial refusal to confess was driven by fear that an admission would harm her chances of a retrial. Her attorneys had advised her to remain silent, but later denied giving such advice. They stated that if her guilt had been known earlier, they would have recommended a plea deal. Under such an agreement, she would have served only 15 years, rather than the longer sentence she faces now. By then, Sher had already spent 20 years behind bars. During this period, she entered her 4th marriage, this time with Michael D. Noy. Michael learned about her case through media reports and became interested in her situation, eventually proposing marriage. Their first meeting took place on June 1st, 2011. Meanwhile, the Waller family's life took a disturbing turn when Jackie contacted her sister Cheryl, informing her she planned to pick up her children from her ex-husband Clay. Jackie intended to return home later that day but never did, nor did she make further contact. By around 7 p.m., Cheryl grew increasingly anxious, worried about her sister's whereabouts. Cheryl decided to visit the police station to report a shocking accusation. She claimed that Clay Waller had murdered her sister. Officers were stunned by her statement, especially since Jackie had called just a few hours earlier, with no signs of distress or any reason to suspect she was in danger. Despite the unusual nature of Cheryl's claim, it soon became clear that her instincts were correct. Jackie was indeed caught in a troubling situation. Before her disappearance, Jackie was known for her kindness, warmth, and compassion. When she met Clay, an immediate connection formed. Clay had a speech impediment that caused him to be mocked by others, making social interactions difficult and embarrassing for him. Unlike most, Jackie refused to ridicule him. Instead, she defended him and protected him from cruelty. Her caring nature was rooted in a desire to shield the vulnerable, fight injustice, and support those around her. Their bond quickly deepened, leading to marriage when both were around 30 years old, with hopes of building a large family. They purchased a modest home in Sanguine View, Missouri, where Jackie began creating a nurturing environment. She had a successful career, while Clay struggled with employment, often losing jobs and failing to hold down steady work. As a result, Jackie became the main breadwinner, balancing her career and household responsibilities. Jackie dreamed of having children, but natural conception proved difficult. Determined, she underwent fertility treatments, including in vitro fertilization. Her joy was immense when she discovered she was pregnant with triplets, 2 girls, Bayan Addison, and 1 boy, Maddox. Caring for 3 newborns was exhausting, yet she never complained. She bore the full weight of parenting without relying on her husband, who appeared disinterested in the children. During this time, Clay took a job with the sheriff's office to support the family, but was fired after a year. Only Jackie's parents and sister helped with childcare, giving her some relief. When Clay lost his job, Jackie stepped up further, working tirelessly to support everyone. Despite the children's arrival, Clay's behavior remained unchanged. He showed little interest in his family or work. Occasionally, he took on part-time jobs that didn't provide much income, seemingly content to live off Jackie's hard-earned wages. She worked 40 hours a week while managing the household and caring for their children. Her career advanced rapidly, and she soon secured a management position at an insurance company. Clay's attitude toward financial responsibility softened as he became more relaxed, yet he failed to appreciate his wife's efforts. Instead, he mistreated her in numerous ways, often insulting her and belittling her worth by claiming no one wanted her. His infidelity and abusive behavior caused her immense suffering. Concerned, Jackie's parents and sister urged her to divorce him, but she hesitated, hoping to save their marriage. Each passing day dimmed her hope, and over time, their financial struggles worsened. Clay's unemployment meant that Jackie's income could no longer support their large family, and mounting mortgage debts led to the foreclosure of their home. Seizing an opportunity, Jackie moved in with her sister, while Clay relocated to a friend's place. By then, their children were slightly older, and Jackie faced the difficult decision to divorce, believing her family deserved a better life. When she discussed this with Clay, he initially appeared calm, but soon changed his stance, refusing the divorce. His subtle threats grew into direct warnings that divorcing him would be akin to signing a death warrant for her and their children. These terrifying threats did not deter Jackie, who knew she could no longer endure such conditions. She confided in her family, sharing her husband's troubling behavior, and began documenting his actions in a diary. For her safety and that of her children, she moved in with her sister as her kids, only 5 years old, couldn't fully grasp the situation. Over time, stability returned, and as the divorce neared completion, Clay seemed to accept their separation, ceasing his harassment. They even started forming new relationships, and Jackie allowed Clay visitation rights, which reduced their disputes. On the 1st of June 2011, they agreed to meet at their attorney's office to finalize the divorce. That day, their son Maddox was visiting his father, while Jackie's other children stayed with her sister Cheryl. After the meeting, Jackie planned to pick up Maddox from Clay's house before returning to Cheryl's. As she left the office, she called Cheryl to report that everything had gone smoothly and that she was en route to collect Maddox. This would be their last conversation. As time went on, Cheryl gradually lost contact with her sister, whose increasing anxiety prompted her to make repeated calls. When Jackie didn't answer, Cheryl tried reaching Clay, but he remained unresponsive. Growing suspicious, Cheryl began to suspect Clay might be involved in Jackie's disappearance. She sent him a text message warning that if she didn't hear from Jackie within 5 minutes, she would contact the police. Almost immediately, Clay returned her call, asking what was wrong. Cheryl firmly stated she believed he knew more than he was admitting. Clay insisted he had no idea where Jackie was and promised he would tell her to call Cheryl once he found her. Yet Cheryl remained unconvinced. She took her sister's children to their parents' house and personally filed a police report. Despite her initial doubts about Clay's involvement, law enforcement took her concerns seriously. They didn't wait the customary 24 hours before acting. Instead, they quickly contacted Jackie's ex-husband for any possible clues about her whereabouts. When questioned, 41-year-old Clay claimed he had lunch with Jackie, then went to his attorney's office to discuss their divorce. Afterwards, he drove to his house for further talks. He said that after chatting for a while, he left to run errands, and upon returning, he found Jackie's car missing. Clay assumed she had already left. He also mentioned that his son, Middex, was in Illinois with his new girlfriend, and insisted Jackie knew about it. According to Clay, Jackie's visit was solely to see her son, not to discuss anything else, especially since she wouldn't have allowed her child to be far away with another woman. Cheryl found his story unconvincing and inconsistent with what she knew about Jackie. She made it clear that her sister's visit was only for her son and that she had no intention of discussing other matters with Clay. Given these discrepancies, Cheryl managed to persuade investigators that Clay's account lacked credibility and might be hiding crucial information about Jackie's disappearance. This new perspective prompted law enforcement to treat the case with greater urgency, especially since both Jackie and her car remained missing. A thorough search was launched immediately. Within hours, investigators discovered Jackie's Honda Pilot on an interstate highway with a flat tire. There were no signs of an accident. The tire appeared deliberately punctured, suggesting the scene was staged. The vehicle was open and empty, with a few bloodstains on the back seat, but no other clues to her whereabouts. These disturbing details pointed to a possible attack or kidnapping. The search efforts focused on the area where the car was found. Volunteers, including police officers, rescue teams with dogs, and family members joined the search, coming from various parts of the region in response to Jackie's relatives' appeals. Despite the sweltering heat, many individuals remained committed to helping find Jackie. Her family offered a reward of $3,500 for any information about her location. Despite their persistent efforts, which included extensive searches and public appeals, no clues emerged for several days. As the investigation stalled, authorities began to focus more closely on Clay, Jackie's ex-husband. When they revisited his residence to question him again, he repeated his previous account, but refused to allow access to his home or vehicle. He quickly hired a lawyer who asserted his legal rights and limited further cooperation. In the days following Jackie's disappearance, Clay left a voicemail expressing distress, hinting at his emotional turmoil. Detectives later obtained a search warrant and conducted a detailed search of his property. During the inspection, they uncovered blood-like stains in his car. Forensic analysis confirmed these were fish blood, which Clay had intentionally applied and recorded on video as a test for investigators. Beyond the vehicle, investigators observed unusual modifications inside Clay's house. A section of the floor had been removed, leaving a clear mark, and tiny blood droplets were found on the hallway walls leading to the basement. These findings intensified suspicions about Clay's possible involvement and motives. Further forensic examination of the house revealed a blood-stained carpet beneath the floorboards. Samples from the blood and the carpet were sent to the laboratory for detailed analysis. Meanwhile, authorities traced Jackie's last known movements to approximately 1:10 in the morning, narrowing the window of her disappearance and deepening the mystery surrounding her case. she was seen at a drugstore with her ex-husband, appearing calm and composed. About 2 hours later, she was captured at an ATM withdrawing money. After this, she vanished from CCTV footage, and although Clay was recorded later with his son and new girlfriend at a toy store, he soon changed clothes and meticulously cleaned their pickup truck and boat, which raised suspicion. Investigators released images of Clay's vehicle and boat, urging witnesses to come forward. A young couple reported seeing Clay near Devil's Island on the Mississippi River, and authorities confirmed this through cell phone records, prompting them to focus their search in that vicinity. Despite extensive efforts across the vast area, no direct evidence linked to the missing woman emerged. Forensic analysis later revealed that bloodstains found in Clay's house belonged to Jackie, confirming her death. With this evidence, police presumed Jackie was deceased. They brought Clay in for questioning, seeking a confession about her murder, but he denied any wrongdoing, claiming the blood was from an old domestic incident. Lacking physical remains or conclusive proof, authorities had no grounds for arrest. Still, they kept Clay under close surveillance, aware of his background as a former deputy sheriff. Knowing he was being watched, Clay employed deceptive tactics to evade detection, such as visiting deserted lots to mislead investigators. Throughout the neighborhood, he continued taunting the search parties and Jackie's family, driving past them, insulting them, flipping the bird, and shouting that their efforts were futile. His defiant behavior only deepened suspicions. Meanwhile, Jackie's sister Cheryl fought in court for custody of the triplets, fearing they might be placed with a dangerous father. Her efforts succeeded, and Clay lost custody, which enraged him. He responded by threatening Cheryl with violence and posting about it on social media. Her recording of his threats led police to arrest Clay nearly 5 months after Jackie's disappearance. He was charged with threats to life, which he claimed were made out of anger and despair over losing his children. Clay insisted he had no malicious intent toward Cheryl, viewing himself as a victim in the ordeal. In this case, during the investigation into his sister's disappearance, authorities uncovered that he faced additional charges, including theft of $50,000 from a former employer and stalking a man. Detectives also pressed his former co-worker, hoping that Clay would confess to killing his ex-wife and reveal her whereabouts. However, their efforts proved futile as Clay continued to deny any involvement in Jackie's disappearance. Instead of admitting guilt, he confidently claimed to know who was responsible, a man named Harry. Yet, investigators had already thoroughly checked Harry, who had an airtight alibi, ruling him out entirely. All evidence pointed solely to Clay, yet he persisted in denying any connection. Ultimately, he served 5 years in prison for threatening Cheryl. While Clay was incarcerated, police persisted with their investigation into Jackie's case. They scoured Devil's Island, but the search yielded no results. Nearly 2 years after her disappearance, authorities amassed substantial circumstantial evidence, security footage, bloodstains in Clay's house, and other clues. Faced with mounting proof, they decided to charge Clay with his wife's murder, despite her body remaining missing. It was a risky move. If they failed to secure a conviction, they would be unable to prosecute him again. The prosecutor, after careful consultation, believed a plea deal was the best course. Clay agreed to plead guilty to the murder and to lead authorities to her remains, which was crucial for her family's closure. Clay directed police to a secluded spot on a remote sandbar on the Illinois side of the Mississippi River. Initially, he couldn't recall exactly where he had buried her, but he eventually admitted to placing a bag of fertilizer over her body. An officer, an experienced gardener, explained that large quantities of fertilizer can kill trees. They examined the area and found 3 dead trees, which raised suspicion. Excavating beneath one of them, they discovered Jackie's body, dressed in the same clothes she had last worn. Identification was confirmed through dental records, and her loved ones finally recognized her as deceased. Her body was recovered, allowing her family to lay her to rest. Her funeral took place on her parents' golden wedding anniversary. Cheryl informed her children that their mother had been murdered by their father, a revelation that shocked them profoundly, as they had lost both parents simultaneously. The children developed a strong aversion to Clay, refusing any further contact. As part of his plea agreement, Clay was required to officially confess to his ex-wife's murder and provide detailed information. He revealed that his murderous thoughts had begun to surface long before his arrest, marking the start of a tragic and dark chapter in their lives. Approximately a year before the tragic event, Jackie announced their separation. Despite this, Clay tried to suppress dark thoughts, as Jackie was the mother of his children. Yet he couldn't shake the fear of losing custody. He warned her that such actions would have severe consequences. Jackie ignored his warnings, which he blamed on her. The night before the murder, Clay traveled to a remote spot on Devil's Island to dig a grave for Jackie. He later claimed that their divorce was progressing smoothly and that, after visiting their lawyer, Jackie suggested they share one last intimate moment. They returned to his home where, while searching for a snack in the fridge, Clay accidentally hit Jackie, causing her nose to bleed. Her anger flared and she stormed into the hallway, smearing blood on the walls and yelling that he would never see his children again. In a rage, Clay lost control, hitting her in the face and then strangling her. Afterwards, he took her body and disposed of it in a dumpster, burying it in the pre-dug grave. He then carefully cleaned the house and car, took a shower, changed clothes, and acted as if nothing had happened, later meeting his new girlfriend and son at a toy store. Throughout this, Clay insisted that his actions were impulsive and driven by emotion, claiming he had not intended to kill Jackie. This conflicted with his earlier statement that he had dug the grave the day before, raising suspicion of premeditation. The medical examiner found multiple skull fractures, indicating blunt force trauma rather than a simple fistfight, suggesting deliberate violence. No one believed Clay's story. He showed no remorse and appeared pleased when sentenced to only 20 years for second-degree murder, with the possibility of early release. However, the prosecution uncovered that Clay's claim about digging the grave was false, as he had done so in Illinois, while the murder occurred in Missouri. This violated federal laws against crossing state lines in domestic violence cases, adding 35 years to his sentence. Clay Waller will be eligible for parole after serving 85% of his 55-year term. Unaware of these laws, he did not anticipate the consequences of his confession. Yet, his cruelty persisted. He even wrote a book about Jackie's murder to profit from her tragedy. Jackie's sister and her husband continue to raise her children with support from their aging parents. The children remember their mother as an extraordinary woman forever cherished in their hearts. William and Sandra Iman had long projected an image of perfect harmony to the outside world, attending church every Sunday in Orwood, Portson. Behind closed doors, however, their family life was far more complex and troubled. Their story began when William, then 18, met 16-year-old Sandra at church. Their union, blessed by their parents, led to marriage, and they settled in the modest town of Logan in Hawking County, Ohio. Bill was a devout man, balancing a career in construction with his passion for playing musical instruments at the local Faith Evangelical Church in Nelsonville. Sandra took on the responsibilities of managing their household. In 1984, they celebrated the birth of their son, William Jr., whom they called Will to distinguish him from his father. As Will grew older, his life followed a familiar pattern. At 17, he met a girl named Summer Cook at church, reminiscent of his parents' initial meeting. Their friendship blossomed over 3 years before they married when Summer turned 18 in 2004. The young couple moved into a small house with Will's parents in Logan, marking the beginning of their shared life. That same year, Bill, then 39, envisioned himself as a spiritual leader. He transformed his garage into a makeshift sanctuary, hosting gatherings despite skepticism from neighbors. Over time, his garage attracted more visitors, neighbors, friends, and others seeking comfort through prayer and offerings. By 2005, Will and Summer were overjoyed with the birth of their son, Alex. Financial difficulties soon emerged as Bill's religious pursuits yielded little income, prompting the family to consider relocating for better job prospects. By 2006, the Iman family had moved to Florida, where Bill and Will found work in hotel construction. Meanwhile, Sandra and Summer dedicated themselves to caring for their young son. 2 years later, they returned to Ohio, having lost their Logan home and settling into a rental in Vinton's countryside. Shortly after, in 2008, they welcomed their second child, a daughter named Kelly. By 2010, their family expanded again with the arrival of Alana. During these years, Will and Summer often sought weekends away for rest and renewal. Throughout these times, Bill and Sandra remained supportive, caring for their grandchildren and cherishing the moments they shared. In spring of 2010, Bill obtained a pastor's license, marking a new chapter in his spiritual journey. Bill, the leader of the Faith Church, along with his wife, founded a charitable organization called the Ranch of Mercy to support the unemployed and homeless. His vision was ambitious, to create a large shelter for orphans and widows. However, funding was scarce, prompting Bill to devise a lottery scheme. Participants bought tickets, with all proceeds dedicated to building the shelter. The grand prize was either a house or $200,000, complemented by 99 other substantial rewards. The community learned about the lottery through news reports and advertisements. Bill promoted it vigorously, assuring potential buyers of luxurious prizes while emphasizing that any surplus funds would go toward creating a haven for the needy. Priced at $10 each, the tickets sold rapidly, reaching $100,000 and raising $1 million for the project. The drawing was scheduled for September of 2010. In June of that year, the Inman family faced a personal crisis. Summer, after 6 years of marriage, expressed her desire to divorce. Her heartfelt diary entry revealed her emotional exhaustion. She felt drained from constantly trying to please others, doubted her right to happiness, and questioned whether she could still love and be loved. She confided her need to share her feelings with Will, despite knowing it might cause pain. Summer longed to be alone, to rediscover herself and understand her true identity. She described feeling like a servant, always obeying others' commands despite her deep love for her children. She worried about how they might react to her decision, fearing Will's possible anger, attempts to take the children away, or worse. She believed it was crucial for her children to see their parents as equals. She anticipated her in-laws might try to persuade her to stay, but she felt such pressure wouldn't change her mind. Last night, when Will asked what she wanted, her mind went blank. All she could think about was what she didn't want, unhappiness and feeling trapped. Yet she couldn't voice these fears, only sitting silently. Each day felt like a struggle, and her greatest wish was for rest, tears, and sleep without interruption. She felt hopeless at times, believing escape was impossible. Still, she hoped that by her next journal entry, she would find clarity on how to resolve her situation. As the summer went on, the divorce process moved forward. Summer left the Inman residence, taking their son, both daughters, and her personal belongings. They sought refuge at her parents' house, aiming to avoid disrupting the children's relationship with their father and grandparents. Regular visits were scheduled to maintain their bonds, but the family's future remained uncertain. Following their separation in August I began a new relationship with Adam Peters while securing a cleaning job at a downtown Logan bank. Due to my limited education, I took on this modest role. September brought a significant event, the launch of the Mercy's House raffle organized by the Inman family. Although construction on the prize house was supposed to start in September and October, neither month saw progress and no raffle occurred. The organizers offered no explanations, nor did they promptly refund participants. By December 1st, the Inmans received notice to vacate their rented home due to unpaid rent. In response, Summer and Adam went to retrieve her remaining belongings from the Inman residence, but they were denied entry. Summer then called the police, claiming her estranged husband was intimidating her and blocking her access. When officers arrived, Will and his parents continued to prevent entry, with Will escalating the situation by threatening Adam and clashing with the officers. As a result, Summer filed a legal complaint against Will. She reflected on their relationship, recalling its idyllic start before marriage, but lamenting how drastically it changed afterward. Will's behavior grew controlling, affecting her diet, household duties, and even intimate aspects of their life. She was not permitted to sleep without his approval and was confined at home without access to her phone or keys. Summer also revealed Will's ambitions for a large family, his interest in polygamy, and his activities on related websites, including posting inappropriate images. She disclosed threats he made if she pursued divorce and mentioned the mysterious disappearance of her cats, which she believed had escaped through an open window. Will justified taking her phone and keys, suspecting her of infidelity, and explained relocating the cats to a shelter due to their unruly behavior and damage caused to furniture and family members. These conflicts led to Will being issued a restraining order, barring him from approaching Summer, and he faced legal penalties and probation. Amid ongoing investigations, a fierce custody battle erupted between their families. The Inmans filed a police report against Adam Peters, alleging he posed a threat to the safety of their children, Alex, Kelly, and Alana. Tragically, Summer's life took a dark turn on the night of March 22, 2011. At just 25 years old, she was finishing her shift at the bank. After completing her cleaning duties around 11 o'clock p.m., she stepped outside to dispose of the trash. She had texted her partner to meet her after work, but by 11:30 he had not found her. Upon arriving at the bank, Adam's concern grew as he searched for Summer. He soon discovered her belongings scattered near a dumpster in a nearby alley. Her phone, keys, and a music player still playing with headphones lying in the grass, her jacket abandoned nearby. Alarmed, Adam immediately contacted Summer's parents to inform them of her disappearance and emphasized the urgency of involving the police. Initially, her parents called the bank, suspecting she might have stayed late for extra work and misplaced her belongings. Security personnel had no clues about her whereabouts, and they soon reached out to the Logan police to report her missing, stressing her usual punctuality and rare late hours at work. When police arrived at the scene, they found Summer's belongings and began gathering accounts from witnesses. 2 women out for an evening jog reported seeing Summer about an hour earlier as she threw out the trash. They described a white Ford Crown Victoria driven by a blonde woman, which suddenly pulled up. 2 individuals dressed in black balaclavas exited the vehicle, forcibly grabbing Summer and shoving her into the back seat, despite her protests and cries for help. One of the witnesses attempted to intervene but was thwarted when the female driver pepper-sprayed him, forcing him to retreat. The car sped away from the scene, leaving the witnesses shaken. Immediately, the joggers rushed to the nearest police station to report what they had seen. Initially, law enforcement was skeptical, finding their account unusual and questioning its credibility, suspecting it might be fabricated. Nevertheless, police reached the abduction site within an hour of Summer Inman's parents filing the missing person report. Despite their swift response, efforts to locate the 25-year-old woman proved unsuccessful. News of her kidnapping spread rapidly through local media, capturing the community's attention and prompting hundreds of residents to unite in hopes of finding her. As days passed, 3 in total, the chances of her being found safe diminished, casting a shadow of despair over her loved ones. Throughout this distressing period, her parents clung to hope, fighting against overwhelming fear. Just before her disappearance, Summer had shared a photo on Facebook featuring herself, her new partner Adam, and her children, presenting an image of a happy family. Interestingly, Adam Peter, who still had access to Summer's Facebook profile despite her being his wife's current partner, noticed this update. This raised a compelling question. Why would a husband befriend his wife's new partner? The backstory revealed that Adam, a man without stable employment, had been hired by the Inman family in spring of 2010 for various household chores. It was during this period that Adam and Summer crossed paths and developed a bond. Despite her initial reluctance, Summer eventually reciprocated Adam's feelings. Her diary entries hinted at internal conflict, reflecting the unraveling of her life within the Inman family and her growing emotional turmoil. In her pursuit of happiness and love, she initiated divorce proceedings that dragged on for 5 days. During this period, Vanishing Will challenged the proposed spousal support, suggesting a reduction to $50 per child monthly, citing his modest annual income of just $6,000. Meanwhile, his parents sought full custody of the children, but their petition was denied by the court. After losing contact with their grandchildren, Bill and Sandra visibly deteriorated. They lost weight and appeared deeply affected. Those familiar with them agreed that the grandchildren were their greatest joy. In March of 2011, amid the investigation into Summer's disappearance, the IM family was located at the home of Bill's 70-year-old mother in Jackson, Ohio. Both Bill, Sandra, and Will claimed ignorance regarding Summer's abduction. They recounted that on the night she was taken, they were en route to Cleveland to view a new property, but encountered car trouble after 3 hours on the road. This led to an overnight roadside repair before they returned to Logan the following morning. They insisted that their interactions with Summer had generally been amicable, despite frequent disputes within the family. They attributed a recent shift in family harmony to Adam Peters' employment within their household, describing this period as particularly challenging. The trio consistently portrayed Adam as a negative influence, alleging he was the catalyst behind the disintegration of their previously close-knit family. The investigation took a pivotal turn when police noticed a white Ford Crown Victoria parked at the IM family's residence. Upon inspection, a GPS receiver was confiscated from the vehicle. Analysis revealed that on March 22nd, the day Summer was abducted, the car was in Logan. Its GPS was deactivated at 5:30 p.m. that evening and reactivated the next morning again in Logan, contradicting the IM's claim of traveling to Cleveland. Phone records further confirmed that all 3 family members remained in Logan on both March 22nd and 23rd. Additional inquiries showed that on the morning of March 23rd, around 7:30 a.m., the Inman family was at a car wash, thoroughly cleaning the interior of their vehicle. Bill, Sandra, and Will were all present, but Summer was noticeably absent. After this, they traveled to an auto repair shop in Cleveland to change a tire. While there, an employee noticed something unusual. Bill was about to replace nearly new tires with used ones, simply because he disliked his current set. Evidence also suggested that the Inmans had attempted to alter the car's appearance, notably by removing a police spotlight that had been mounted on the driver's side door near the mirror. Bill, Sandra, and Will Inman were soon detained and brought in for questioning. Before their arrest, Bill assured his elderly mother that they were innocent, claiming the situation was a test from the devil. Throughout the interrogation, they insisted they had no knowledge of Summer Inman's kidnapping and did not know who the culprit was. However, after several hours and facing the threat of capital punishment if convicted, Sandra Inman's resolve weakened. She ultimately confessed that they were responsible for Summer's abduction. On the night of March 22nd, she recounted how Bill and Will had disguised themselves with black masks. Initially, Sandra's plan was only to abduct and intimidate Summer, yet things took a tragic turn. According to her confession, when Summer was forcibly placed in the back seat of the car, Will restrained her with plastic ties around her neck, hands, and feet, intending merely to scare her into cooperation for access to their children. As the situation spiraled out of control, Will panicked upon realizing Summer was close to losing consciousness. Desperate, he searched for a knife to free her, shouting frantically for his mother. Sandra maintained that their goal was never to kill Summer. They simply wanted to resolve their custody dispute and ensure regular visits with their grandchildren. A week after the kidnapping, on March 29th, Sandra Inman revealed the location of Summer's body. Her remains were discovered in a septic tank on the grounds of Skinnier Faith Church near Nelsonville, about 30 kilometers from her workplace. Bill Inman had been involved in the church's construction, which held personal significance for him and Sandra, as it was where they had married 28 years earlier. The Inmans were regular attendees, and Bill had participated in the church's musical ensemble. Police uncovered the septic tank by removing a concrete slab and unscrewing 6 bolts from the metal lid. Upon opening it, they immediately saw Summer's legs. She had been thrown head-first into the tank, still dressed in her work attire. Her black t-shirt bore an ironic inscription, "I don't have anger issues, I have issues with idiots." A forensic examination confirmed that Summer had died from strangulation. Aside from marks on her neck, hands, and legs indicating restraint, no other injuries were found. On her body, the evidence of strangulation was unmistakable, revealing the tragic cause of her death. Sandra initially planned to dispose of the body in a river, but reconsidered, deciding it would be safer to hide it in the well near the church, believing this location would keep it concealed for a long time. During the trial, she expressed deep shame for her actions and their irreversible consequences. Throughout the proceedings, 49-year-old Bill Inman and 28-year-old Will Inman remained mostly silent, showing no emotion or eye contact with Summer's grieving parents, refusing to accept responsibility for her death. In contrast, Sandra, aged 47, was the only family member to admit guilt, asserting that the plan to intimidate Summer was entirely her own idea. In a deeply emotional moment before sentencing, Sandra, overwhelmed with tears, faced Summer's parents and begged for their forgiveness. Her broken voice and sobs clearly conveyed remorse, and she acknowledged that she saw Summer as a daughter, expressing regret for her catastrophic decision. In 2012, the court sentenced all three Inmans. Bill and Will received life imprisonment without parole, while Sandra was also sentenced to life but with the possibility of parole after serving 15 years. However, among friends and church members familiar with the family dynamics, doubts persisted about Sandra being the mastermind behind the crime. It was widely known that Bill held a dominant role, often making final decisions, and Will was seen as a spoiled child whose desires were always fulfilled by his parents. Many speculated that Sandra's confession might have been a strategic move to lessen legal repercussions for her husband and son. Currently, Alex and Alana are being raised by Summer's family. For some time, it was difficult to explain to these young children where their mother, father, grandmother, and grandfather had gone. In 2013, Jessica Herringer, a 25-year-old woman from Norton Shores, Michigan, disappeared under mysterious circumstances from her workplace. The search for her kidnapper spanned several years and uncovered disturbing details about the perpetrator, affecting many other women along the way. Jessica was born on July 16, 1987, into a modest family with a sister. By 22, she had become a mother to a son named Zen, fathered by her long-term partner, Dakota Quayle Dyer, with whom she was still living in 2013. Jessica worked at an Exxon gas station near Lake Michigan, known for her warmth and friendliness as a manager. She often received praise from customers and took on extra hours to support her beloved 3-year-old son. Her diary revealed her ambitions to pursue college studies in accounting, but financial difficulties hindered her plans. Dakota was unable to fully support their family, leading to frequent disputes and turmoil in their relationship. Although they were engaged, their marriage was repeatedly delayed due to various issues. On the evening of April 26, 2013, Jessica was performing her usual duties at the gas station, having started her day with a visit to a nearby store around 3 o'clock. On the late afternoon of her shift, Jessica drove to the gas station, arriving around 4:35 p.m. After parking her car, she began her night shift, which was scheduled to conclude at 11:30 p.m. She was the only employee on duty that evening. At approximately 11:14 p.m., a customer contacted emergency services, reporting his experience at the Exxon station. He explained that he had entered the store to pay cash for gas, but found the premises unattended. The dispatcher was informed that the station's door was open and unlocked, with lights still on, yet no staff was present to process his payment. Outside, his vehicle and another car were parked, but no one was in sight, making the situation seem highly unusual. Police arrived at the station within 10 minutes of the Deviatsa Odinatsat call. Their inspection of both interior and exterior areas revealed no signs of a struggle. Everything appeared in order. Jessica's coat and purse, containing $400 and her keys to both her car and home, were found in the back room. A single drop of blood, later identified as Jessica's, was discovered near the back door of the storage area. Additionally, a cap from a Walther P22 semi-automatic pistol, along with a laser sight and 2 batteries, likely for a watch, were found on the floor. The cash register remained untouched, with all the money still inside. The last recorded transaction was at 10:52 p.m., when Jessica sold a lighter. Notably, there was no surveillance camera inside the station near the cash register, but Jessica's pack of cigarettes was found nearby, suggesting she had briefly left her station with the intention of returning soon. Jessica's car, locked and parked outside, was unoccupied, and she was nowhere to be seen. Her unexplained disappearance after the station was left unattended prompted police to contact the station's owner, who then asked a nearby manager to secure the premises. Jessica's family was also notified, and her friends were questioned for clues. One friend recalled being at the station between 8 and 9 p.m., noting everything appeared normal. Later, a fellow employee arrived to lock up and recounted that around 11 p.m., she and her boyfriend had driven past the station on a motorcycle. They noticed a silver Chrysler Town and Country minivan parked near the rear service door with its back door open. Suspecting Jessica might be involved in theft, they paused to observe further. The station manager observed a young man with disheveled, wavy hair near the minivan, dressed in an orange sweatshirt. She saw him repeatedly opening and closing the vehicle's rear door before he finally drove off. Police reviewed nearby surveillance footage, which showed a silver Chrysler passing the Exxon station at 11:02 p.m., providing a crucial lead in the case. A nearby store employee reported to the police that he had seen a man in a minivan speaking with Jessica Christian. At first, he thought the stranger was simply flirting with her, attracted by her appearance. The employee observed Jessica standing outside while the man questioned why she wasn't inside the store. Another colleague, who had also seen the man near the vehicle, helped create a composite sketch of the unidentified individual. The sketch depicted a young man with a similar complexion, dark wavy hair, a stocky build, and approximately 1 meter 82 centimeters in height. This image was released 3 days after Jessica's disappearance. Despite numerous calls to the police, no significant leads emerged from the tips received. The widespread presence of the silver Chrysler minivan in the United States complicated the investigation, as in Michigan alone, about 15,000 such vehicles were registered. Identifying the specific driver linked to Jessica proved to be an enormous challenge amid so many identical models. Initially, Jessica's boyfriend, Dakota Quad D, was considered a suspect. He admitted they often argued but denied ever harming her physically. Dakota cooperated fully, telling police he had been at home with their 3-year-old son on the night Jessica went missing. With no access to a vehicle and his phone records confirming his whereabouts that evening, he was ruled out as a suspect. The investigation also revealed that Jessica was popular among many due to her friendly and outgoing nature, which sometimes caused misunderstandings. One such admirer was Jess Ammerman, a 37-year-old married plumber. He visited Jessica at the gas station around 9:30 in the evening, on the day she disappeared, openly expressing his love and even stating he would divorce his wife for her. Jessica rejected his advances, then left the station and called his wife, with whom she spoke for about 50 minutes before he returned home. After questioning, a polygraph test, and his wife's testimony, Jess Ammerman was eliminated from suspicion. Another person of interest was Rob Fallett, the brother of the gas station's manager. Although details about his involvement remain unclear, he was identified as a potential suspect. He reportedly visited the station around 9 o'clock that evening, but further specifics about his role in the case were not disclosed. On the day Jessica vanished, her demeanor was noticeably subdued when he greeted her, prompting him to inquire about her mood. She confided that she was experiencing family problems. Rob offered her a place to stay, but she politely declined. After a brief visit to the station and making a purchase, Rob left for a night fishing trip at the nearby lake. Detective Ives examined Rob's phone records from that evening, which confirmed his account of leaving the gas station to go fishing. As a result, Rob's involvement was ruled out, and the search for Jessica intensified. Search and rescue efforts for Jessica Herringer involved helicopters, expertly trained dogs, and extensive searches of residential areas, commercial properties, wooded regions, and Lake Michigan. Despite these thorough investigations, no new leads emerged, and the case reached an apparent dead end. Nearly a year later, in February of DV Tisyachi-Chetir, a similar incident occurred in Michigan. A petite blonde woman with glasses was assaulted by a man while returning home late at night. She was kidnapped, taken to his apartment and attacked. Despite threats to her life, she was released after several hours. The suspect was identified as 42-year-old Brad Mason, who was quickly located. Mason resisted arrest by brandishing a fake firearm, leading to his fatal shooting by police. Mason had a criminal history, including a kidnapping conviction in DV Tisiachi Chetir and an arrest for indecent exposure in DV Tisiachio de Natsat. In DV Tisiachi Chetir Natsat, he was living in a dormitory opposite the Exxon gas station where Jessica worked. However, investigators found no evidence linking Mason to Jessica's disappearance. 2 years later, in DV Tisiachi Shesnatsat, another disturbing incident took place late at night involving a young woman returning from a friend's party. She became disoriented on a dark street when a man in a silver minivan approached her, asking if she was okay and offering a ride. She refused, but asked to use his phone, which he agreed to only if she entered the vehicle. Once inside, he locked the doors, claimed his phone was dead, and then pulled out a gun, instructing her to stay silent. During the ride, the woman felt ill and nauseous, and she requested the driver to roll down the window. Seizing her chance, she jumped out of the moving vehicle and ran to a nearby house. The man sped away. She immediately contacted police, providing a description of her kidnapper. Surveillance footage helped trace the license plate of the silver Chrysler Town & Country, leading to the identification of the driver as 46-year-old Jeffrey Willis. Willis was a factory worker living a secluded, modest life with no prior criminal record. When police found him, they searched his minivan and discovered a Walther P.22 semi-automatic pistol, which was traced back to a colleague who had reported it stolen. Willis was arrested and detained for further investigation. During a thorough search of Jeffrey Willis's residence, investigators uncovered a disturbing collection of paraphernalia associated with BDSM practices, including handcuffs, chains, ropes, gags, a vibrator, a video camera, and a bullet matching a Walther P.22. The box also contained insulin syringes filled with an unidentified liquid, sedatives, Viagra, lubricant, disposable gloves, and a diagram of female anatomy marked with injection points. His computer revealed numerous videos depicting heinous kidnapping scenes involving young women as victims. Hidden within a ventilation duct, authorities found a hard drive containing footage Willis secretly recorded of his female neighbors swimming without their knowledge. A folder labeled Victims held 2 subfolders, one named after Jessica Herring, who had gone missing, and another for Rebecca, a woman murdered roughly a year earlier. Rebecca Black, age 36, was tragically killed on June 29, 2014, just 20 minutes from where Jessica worked at an Exxon gas station. Rebecca had gone out for an evening run but never returned. Her body was discovered lying on the road with disheveled clothing, initially thought to have been hit by a vehicle. Despite still having a pulse when found, she succumbed to her injuries before emergency services arrived. An autopsy revealed she had been shot 3 times, once in the back and twice in the head, and had multiple bruises on her wrists and legs. At the time, the perpetrator remained at large. 2 years after Willis's arrest, new evidence connected Rebecca's murder to a pistol found in his minivan. Willis denied involvement, but prosecutors believed he had attempted to abduct Rebecca and bring her to his home. When she resisted, he reportedly shot her and fled. Forensic analysis later confirmed Rebecca's DNA on a glove recovered from Willis's residence. Consequently, Jeffrey Willis was convicted of Rebecca's murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. While serving his sentence, Willis faced additional charges related to Jessica Herring's kidnapping. Although he consistently denied any role in her disappearance, phone records placed him at the Exxon station where Jessica was last seen. Afterward, he traveled to his late grandfather's house, about 13 minutes away. Authorities discovered a heavily secured front door at that residence, which had been forcibly opened. Inside, they found various cleaning agents, powders, and bleaches dating back to early 2013, aligning with the time frame of Jessica's disappearance. Colleagues remembered Willis being notably absent on April 27, 2013, the day after Jessica vanished. When he returned to work a few days later, he bore conspicuous deep scratches on his face and hands, raising further suspicion. Additionally, a woman who visited the gas station on April 25th, the day before Jessica's disappearance, was among those who noticed his unusual behavior. In late evening, a concerned individual contacted the police after arriving at the station and expressing unease about being alone at such an hour. Jessica herself acknowledged her presence with a nod, appearing visibly anxious and frightened. Inside the station, an unfamiliar man reassured her, saying that she was protected by customers who looked after her. After he left, the worried visitor remained in her car outside, anxiously waiting until Jessica finished her shift and headed home. Tragically, Jessica vanished the following day. In 2016, a gas station witness identified Jeffrey Willis as the man seen there, recalling multiple encounters with Jessica Herringer, at least 15 times. Meanwhile, Willis's cousin, Kevin Bloom, aged 48 and a prison guard, was detained. During interrogation, Kevin's inconsistent statements eventually led him to confess. He revealed details about Rebecca Bletcher's death that had not been made public and admitted assisting Jeffrey Willis in hiding Jessica's body. Kevin recounted that on April 27th, the day after Jessica's abduction, Jeffrey invited him to a party at his grandfather's house. There, Kevin saw Jessica for the first time, lying on the floor, bound and lifeless. The cousins wrapped her in a sheet, transported her in a car to a forest where Jeffrey had previously dug a grave and buried her. They then returned home. When Kevin led police to the forest to locate Jessica's remains, he wandered the area for a long time but was unable to find the exact burial site. Jeffrey Willis's trial began despite Jessica Herringer's body never being recovered, either alive or deceased. The prosecution presented compelling evidence to charge Willis with her kidnapping and murder, asserting that he had stalked Jessica over an extended period. On the night of April 26, 2013, Willis allegedly parked near the gas station service entrance, entered the premises, and struck Jessica on the head with a gun. During the assault, the gun's laser sight cover fell off, and Jessica's blood was spilled on the floor. Willis then reportedly dragged her out through the service exit, placing her in the back seat of his car. He transported her to his late grandfather's house, where he committed his most heinous acts. Forensic analysis of Willis's computer revealed that he stored photographs and news articles related to Jessica's disappearance. Further investigation uncovered that he used a password consisting of Jessica's initials and the date, April 27, 2013, presumed to be the day she died. Throughout the proceedings, Jeffrey Willis denied all accusations, insisting he was at home on the night of the crime. Jeffrey Willis's trial for the murder of Jessica Herringer was marked by a lack of concrete evidence directly linking him to the crime. No DNA belonging to Jessica was recovered from Willis's home or vehicle, and the defense argued that her disappearance might be connected to drug trafficking, as Dakota had mentioned Jessica's serious substance abuse issues. Despite these claims, Willis was ultimately convicted of Jessica's murder and sentenced to life imprisonment without parole. Throughout the trial, he showed no signs of remorse or empathy. His cousin, Kevin Bloom, was found guilty of helping to dispose of Jessica's body and received a 2-year prison sentence along with 5 years of probation. Years after his conviction, Willis's story took an unexpected turn when he became a suspect in an unresolved case from October 17, 1996, in Fruitport, Michigan. There, the body of young Angela Thorbug was discovered, though her remains had not been recovered. Willis, who had graduated from the same high school as Angela in 1988, was linked to her murder. At the time, he was a 28-year-old janitor working at Almar. Concerns about his behavior arose when the school principal noticed his excessive time spent in the computer lab during work hours. An investigation into his computer activity was launched, but the details remain undisclosed. Following the inquiry, Willis was asked to resign immediately. The case surrounding Angela's death remains shrouded in secrecy to this day. A decade has passed since Jessica Herringer's disappearance, and her remains have yet to be found. Her tragic case sparked a legal battle over the custody of her son, John, between Jessica's sister and Dakota, her partner. Ultimately, Jessica's biological family took custody of John. Beyond custody disputes, Jessica's parents became active advocates for legislative reform. Their efforts led to a law requiring nighttime gas stations to install surveillance cameras, aiming to prevent similar tragedies in the future. Humans are inherently suspicious and covetous, often seeking flaws where none exist. When faced with perfection, their instinct is to find imperfections or even create them. The tragic story we recount today was witnessed by a large audience, yet no one was able to help the seemingly flawless girl who ultimately became handicapped. At Tsinghua University, often called the Chinese Harvard, a distinguished performance was held in partnership with the Beijing Symphony Orchestra. The event was highly prestigious, with elegantly dressed couples entering the Grand Theater, men in tailored black suits with shining cufflinks, women in stunning full-length gowns clutching small handbags. They exchanged polite smiles and engaged in conversation as they took their seats. That evening, students from Tsinghua University prepared to showcase their talents in a setting that celebrated cultural excellence. Under immense pressure, Zhu Lingling faced a daunting challenge, delivering a 6-minute solo performance that could define her future. The audience included professors, potential employers, and benefactors, key figures who could influence her career. Any mistake or misstep was unacceptable. She needed to captivate them and leave a lasting impression. Her goal was to immerse herself in the rhythm and embody the spirit of the ancient Chinese instrument, the guqin, revered as the instrument of sages and favored by scholars and intellectuals. Mastery of the guqin was associated with wisdom and prestige. One from the Song dynasty sold for $22 million, ranking among the most valuable musical artifacts. To calm her nerves, Zhu Lingling's friends gathered near the stage, their own anxiety nearly matching hers after witnessing her struggles over the past 2 months. Her entire existence had been focused on these 6 minutes, and she had nearly sacrificed her well-being for this moment. Stress had taken a toll. Her appetite vanished in the days before her performance. Stomach pains plagued her, and sleep was elusive, leaving her vision blurred and her nerves frayed. When her time finally came, she took a deep breath, bowed to the audience, sat down, and began playing the guqin. In those opening moments, her friends held their breath, but soon the tension eased as they became immersed in her music. Zhu Lingling's stage presence that evening was flawless. She appeared to have transformed her anxiety into a deep connection with the melody. Her hands moved with effortless grace, coaxing exquisite sounds that filled the theater. Some friends were moved to tears, sensing that she had channeled her months of stress and fear into her performance, turning it into a powerful emotional release. As the 6 minutes concluded, the audience erupted into applause. Zhu Lingling bowed deeply, smiled softly, and stepped down from the stage. Unbeknownst to her, her best friend was among the crowd, smiling broadly and clapping vigorously, her hands turning red from excitement, though her face betrayed a hint of nervousness. That night, Zhu Lingling chose to skip the celebration and return home to rest. The release of tension left her utterly drained. While in the shower, she calmly washed her hair, but suddenly noticed a clump passing through her fingers. Her heart quickened as she examined her reflection in the mirror. Her face looked exhausted, and small, irregular bald spots appeared, reminiscent of careless shaving. This was just the beginning. In the following weeks, her condition worsened dramatically. She became confined to a wheelchair, unable to move, speak, or control her facial muscles, her cognitive abilities regressing to that of a 6-year-old child. Her decline was not due to illness or genetics, but resulted from the actions of another individual. For a student from China, gaining admission to Harvard was extraordinarily rare, more unlikely than many other achievements, especially considering the acceptance rate for Chinese applicants was a mere fraction of a percent. In an effort to make the university more accessible to international students, it operates with an annual budget of $5 billion. This institution is renowned for educating the offspring of influential political figures, wealthy entrepreneurs, and elite families, all of whom are exceptionally intelligent and highly educated. The real challenge here isn't merely gaining admission, but surviving the fierce competition and rivalry that pervade campus life. Some alumni have admitted that to stay ahead, students resort to manipulation, betrayal, deceit, and backstabbing, all fueled by an unrelenting competitive spirit cultivated within these walls. In 1994, Xing was among 31 chemistry undergraduates at Tsinghua University, ranking within the top 3 of her cohort, which comprised 20 males and 11 females. She was widely regarded as the embodiment of excellence, the standout among her peers. Not only was she academically gifted, but she also possessed a tall, striking appearance that led many to envision a future filled with remarkable achievements. Her charisma and confidence further set her apart. Her arrival in the dormitory sparked envy as she effortlessly drew friends and admirers through her warm and approachable demeanor. Xing was diligent, attending lectures, completing assignments, and maintaining high energy levels that impressed many. Yet, after just a few months, an inexplicable decline in her health became evident. Even during graduation week, she appeared less strained, but soon she seemed to vanish from the campus scene. She started arriving late to classes and looked perpetually exhausted. During lectures, she would sweat profusely as if overheating, and severe stomach pains plagued her, leading both classmates and instructors to suspect stress. Seeking relief, Xing visited the campus clinic for painkillers, but they provided only temporary respite. What began as minor tardiness quickly escalated to her skipping classes altogether. Concerned friends decided to visit her in her dormitory, shared with 3 other girls. They found her in bed, shivering and moaning in agony, with dark clumps of hair scattered across her pillow. Alarmed, her classmates urged her to see a doctor, but Xing dismissed their worries, insisting she was merely stressed and would return to classes soon. She assured them that everything would normalize by the end of the semester. However, the once vibrant and impeccable Xing was now unrecognizable. Her complexion had turned ghostly pale, and her lips took on a bluish hue, making her resemble a ghost haunting the campus. Her movements became sluggish, each step seemingly causing her intense pain. Most of her hair had fallen out, leaving her nearly bald and forcing her to wear head coverings to hide her scalp. Occasionally, her vision would blur, leading to temporary blindness that could last for hours. Various hypotheses about her deteriorating condition circulated among students and faculty, but none provided a clear explanation. As news of Jing Xing's rapidly worsening health spread across campus, many speculated about the cause. Some wondered if she was battling cancer, while others thought her hair loss might be linked to OPA, a known factor in hair thinning, or perhaps an autoimmune disease. Yet, darker rumors soon surfaced. Several students believed Jing's decline was connected to stress from a recent dispute with her close friend Sunny. It seemed suspicious that her health deteriorated right after their falling out, especially following her absence from a difficult orchestra rehearsal. During that session, Jing faced harsh criticism from the instructor after Sunny had informed him that Jing had skipped because she felt overly talented, implying her peers needed to improve to match her skills. Such maliciousness was overwhelming for Xing, who was deeply affected by the hostility. Meanwhile, among the university community, other theories circulated. Some hinted that Jing, a chemistry student, might be secretly conducting groundbreaking experiments that could have dangerous consequences. But would a highly ambitious young woman risk her health in such a way? Beijing, a close friend since middle school and a fellow student at Beijing University, decided to visit Jing in the hospital. When he entered her room, he was struck by the sight of her frail, almost unrecognizable form. The sight was so distressing that he quickly turned to leave, not out of fear of infection, but because witnessing his once vibrant friend in such a dire state was overwhelming. How could a lively 20-year-old transform so rapidly? What illness could strip away all her vitality and achievements? The medical team found her condition baffling. Just months earlier, Jing had been in peak health. Now she lay nearly hairless, connected to multiple machines with tubes protruding from her nose and mouth. Her body convulsed, her face showing signs of partial paralysis, and her wide eyes reflected silent desperation. Every touch caused her excruciating pain, and her movements were erratic. Even her hospital gown seemed to torment her sensitive skin. Sensing her silent plea for help, Beijing read the anguish in her eyes, a memory he would carry forever. Seeking clarity, Beijing and Jing's parents questioned the doctors, but they too were perplexed. They traced back to the initial symptoms, which had appeared about a month or two earlier, Jing had experienced stomach aches resembling spasms that came and went unpredictably. Within a week, the pain intensified, forcing her to bend over in agony or curl up on the ground in a fetal position. At first, she tried to manage her discomfort with large amounts of Chinese herbal tea, hoping it would pass. However, her condition worsened, leading to episodes of fainting and loss of vision, first intermittently, then for hours at a time. Her hair began falling out, a particularly traumatic symptom for a young woman. The situation rapidly deteriorated, culminating in her hospitalization just days before Christmas. That month marked her first experience with serious hospital care, and her parents' concern deepened as they watched her health decline so suddenly. She remained steadfast by her side as medical teams conducted tests to identify the cause of her mysterious illness. Initial screenings for arsenic and mercury poisoning yielded no abnormal results. Interestingly, a doctor from another hospital recalled a similar case from the 1960s and suggested thallium poisoning as a possibility. However, Xu Lingling firmly denied any exposure to thallium during her studies. The hospital then contacted Tsinghua University to investigate which chemicals she might have encountered as a chemistry student. Despite this effort, her medical records revealed no chemical exposures that could explain her symptoms, leaving her condition an unresolved mystery for the doctors. Remarkably, after about a month, Xu Lingling's health showed signs of improvement, prompting her to request permission to return to her studies. Eager to sit for her exams and not lose the entire semester, she concealed her ongoing struggles. Her parents strongly opposed her resuming university, fearing that stress might worsen her condition. Yet Xu Lingling pretended to recover fully and returned to classes in February. Sadly, by March, her health sharply declined again, leading to her readmission to the hospital in a state so severe she could barely speak. Her condition was so fragile that continuing her studies seemed impossible. Disillusioned with the local medical community's inability to find answers, she took the initiative herself. Xu Lingling reached out to medical experts worldwide, posting her symptoms in specialized online forums. Within half an hour, she received responses, and over the next few days, some 2,000 emails arrived from 18 different countries. Many responders were affiliated with national medical institutions and specialized in toxicology. The consensus was alarming. Her symptoms pointed to thallium poisoning, suggesting a deliberate attempt to cause her slow, agonizing death. Thallium, a dense and highly toxic metal, was once used in poisons but has been banned in major countries, including China and the United States, since the early 20th century. Historically, it was employed as a lice treatment, notorious for causing hair loss. Its symptoms are so varied that misdiagnosis is common, and detection often occurs only after significant delay. Thallium poisoning leaves no visible marks like bruises or wounds, making it difficult to identify. The poisoning progresses in stages. Initial stomach discomfort escalates to severe pain, tremors, headaches, insomnia, and temporary blindness. Later, the victim endures intense skin pain, akin to burns, where even light touch becomes unbearable and clothing or bedding cause torment. The final phase involves neurological symptoms, seizures, involuntary movements, paralysis, and cognitive decline, culminating in mental deterioration and ultimately death. Jing's case marked a dramatic decline, transforming her from a top student at China's most prestigious university into someone with the mental capacity of a 6-year-old. In collaboration with Xing's parents, BG Zhen meticulously reviewed numerous emails and swiftly shared their findings with Xing's team. However, medical professionals remained skeptical of the online diagnosis, emphasizing that detecting thallium in the body without specialized tests was impossible, and such testing required sending blood samples to a laboratory equipped for precise analysis, and since thallium is a rare, tightly controlled substance, it was not easily accessible. The doctors also pointed out that if Jing's condition was truly caused by thallium poisoning, an antidote would likely be ineffective at this advanced stage of illness. This revelation shocked Jing's family and friends, raising urgent questions about who might want to harm her. A hypothesis emerged that her assailant could have targeted her parents, given their prominent roles. Her father, a senior engineer at a national agency, potentially handling sensitive information, and her mother, an engineer at a major Chinese corporation. Yet, this lead soon reached a dead end. The primary challenge was understanding how the poison entered Jing's system, especially since no other students on campus showed similar symptoms. This made vapors unlikely, pointing instead to ingestion or direct contact with the substance. During her hospitalization, her personal belongings mysteriously vanished from her dormitory, including shampoo, contact lens case, lipstick, bath soap, and even her water glass. Strangely, the thief seemed solely interested in Jing's possessions, an unusual occurrence in a prestigious university dormitory lacking surveillance cameras. Access to the female dormitory was restricted to current female students of the university, with no alumni, graduate students, or professors permitted entry. Authorities launched a thorough investigation into over 20 vendors known to supply thallium, a substance still used in manufacturing optical lenses, electronics, and other products. They discovered that one supplier had provided thallium to the university's chemistry department for research purposes. The investigation revealed that only a select few within the university, 2 professors, 3 graduate students, and 2 senior undergraduates, had access to this chemical. Consequently, the perpetrator was likely someone involved in experiments related to thallium, with the opportunity to steal Jing's belongings. As the inquiry advanced, the professors and graduate students were quickly ruled out, as they lacked access to the substance and the means to carry out such an act. The women's dormitory narrowed suspicion to 2 senior students, 1 male and 1 female. Since the male student couldn't have entered the female residence, suspicion naturally fell on the female student. Surprisingly, the student was none other than Sunway, also known as Sunny. She was not only Xing's best friend and roommate, but also the prime suspect in her attempted murder. This raised a perplexing question. Why would Sunny, with a promising future ahead, jeopardize everything by committing such a serious act? People close to both women noted that Xing had recently won over Sunny in the student elections. Sunny was not known for her grace. She was argumentative and had deceived her closest friend multiple times. As Xing advanced academically and gained recognition, Sunny's jealousy grew. Tensions intensified when Xing's outstanding performance with the Beijing Philharmonic became a point of friction. Xing was attractive, talented, and highly respected by peers and faculty alike, which likely fueled Sunny's envy even more. Sunny was subjected to an 8-hour interrogation before her parents arrived to take her home. Her family wielded considerable influence at Qinghai University. Her father was a prominent member of the Democratic Revolutionary Committee, and her grandfather had served as vice chairman. Many relatives held prominent government or academic positions at top universities. As a result, the case against Sunny remained unresolved for some time. She maintained her innocence, asserting that the police had cleared her of suspicion. Nonetheless, she legally changed her name and birth date, married an American, and moved to the United States, where she lived without restrictions. Meanwhile, Ling's diagnosis came too late. It was eventually confirmed that her mysterious illness was caused by thallium poisoning. By the time it was detected, the levels in her body were extraordinarily high. The antidote, Prussian blue, proved ineffective due to the advanced stage of poisoning. Ling was left permanently disabled, suffering irreversible nerve damage, facial paralysis, and mental capacity akin to that of a child. She was confined to a wheelchair. Later, her family received $14,000 from the hospital due to misdiagnosis and mishandling of her case. The police quietly closed the investigation without informing Ling's family, deepening their tragedy and suspicions. Sunway lived until the age of 50 before passing away. Her parents found some solace in the fact that she had survived so long despite her condition. Tragically, the person responsible for her illness was never brought to justice. The location where the car was discovered, along with its condition, immediately raised serious questions and suspicions. Situated in a remote, seldom visited area, the vehicle was completely engulfed in flames, suggesting something alarming and out of the ordinary had occurred. The county district attorney examined the case closely, and his initial findings indicated that the fire was deliberately set. This conclusion was reinforced by the fact that no other objects or structures nearby had been burned, implying targeted arson rather than an accidental fire. The mysterious incident involving Paige Bergfeld's car marked only the beginning of a far more complex and troubling story. On June 28, 2007, a date forever etched into the memories of Paige's loved ones, an ordinary morning turned into a nightmare. Paige had left her children with a friend, Carol Linderholm, early that day, and everything appeared normal. No one expected trouble, nor did they imagine the events that would soon unfold. Known as a responsible mother, Paige always kept her commitments, calling or arriving promptly to pick up her children. But when she failed to return, friends and family grew concerned and tried to reach her, only to be met with silence. Her eldest child, 8-year-old Jazz, took the initiative to search for his missing mother. After multiple unanswered calls, he insisted on accompanying Carol to look for her. They went to the police station, where Jazz reported that his mother had not come back for him. The community was stunned by her sudden disappearance, and many rallied to assist in the search. A large-scale effort was launched to find Paige and reunite her with her children and loved ones. That same day, Paige's father, Frank Bergfeld, received a brief but alarming call from a sheriff's department official. The message confirmed her disappearance, and Frank immediately sensed that something serious was amiss. He tried to contact Paige directly, but received no response. With no other options, he reached out to his eldest son, Craig, who lived across the country. Without hesitation, Craig bought a one-way ticket and arrived to help with the search. Family, friends, police, and volunteers worked together in a massive operation, meticulously combing through neighborhoods and checking every possible place where Paige might be. Authorities began by investigating her relationships, especially focusing on her past with her first husband, Howard Bigler. Paige's history with Howard stretched back to her high school days. After graduating, she enrolled in the nursing program at the University of Florida, where she met Howard. Their mutual affection led them to start dating, and after earning her nursing degree, Paige returned to Colorado to live with her family. The investigation into her disappearance soon expanded, probing her personal connections and recent activities, as authorities sought to uncover what had truly happened to Paige Bergfeld on that fateful day. Time had passed since Paige's marriage to Howard Bigler, and at first glance they seemed a happy couple. Sharing many interests and similar outlooks on life, their relationship appeared harmonious. Yet beneath this surface, a fundamental rift existed. Paige longed for children and a family, a desire Howard did not share. This core disagreement sparked frequent arguments and endless discussions, but attempts at compromise proved futile. By 1997, they recognized that their differences were insurmountable and decided to divorce. Despite ending their marriage, their bond remained strong enough for continued friendship. Later, Paige married Rob Dixon, but that union also ended in divorce. After her separation from Rob, she reconnected with Howard. Howard later claimed he was among the last to see Paige alive. On the 28th of that month, they met in Eagle County, Colorado, where Paige was attending to personal business. They spent Thursday together, and Howard confirmed they kept in touch by phone afterward. When Paige disappeared, Howard immediately contacted emergency services. During the call, he expressed concern and believed something terrible had happened to her. Cell tower data supported his story, showing he was in Denver, several hours away from where Paige vanished at the time. This evidence led police to rule him out as a suspect. Investigators then turned their attention to Paige's relationship with her second husband, Rob Dixon. They uncovered troubling incidents. Paige had reported Rob to the police twice for harassment during their marriage. After her divorce from Howard, Paige took a job at a Denver strip club where she met Rob, a wealthy man who had inherited a substantial fortune from his family's business. Falling in love, they married in 1998 and settled into a luxurious Colorado home, fulfilling Paige's dream of motherhood. Over the next few years, they had 3 children who became her greatest joy. Initially, their marriage seemed idyllic, marked by a prosperous lifestyle. However, financial troubles soon emerged. Rob's family businesses encountered serious issues, leading to a sharp decline in their economic situation. By 2004, the financial strain had become overwhelming, forcing Rob to file for bankruptcy. This crisis ignited intense family tensions. Paige, in distress, contacted emergency services twice that year. The first time, she reported that Rob had threatened to kill her and their children. When police arrived, both claimed to have resolved their issues privately. A year later, another incident occurred, further highlighting the mounting turmoil. The situation surrounding Paige's disappearance was markedly complex and filled with unexpected revelations. Paige had previously accused Rob of assault, claiming he struck her while she was holding their youngest child. This incident led to Rob's arrest and charges of third-degree assault. Although he later pleaded guilty to one count of molestation, the trial was ultimately dismissed, allowing him to avoid jail. Despite the turmoil, the couple's relationship continued to decline, culminating in their separation. Rob moved to Pennsylvania, and investigators questioned him to establish his whereabouts on the day Paige vanished. He insisted he was at home and could not have harmed her, and he actively participated in the search efforts, leaving no stone unturned in their quest to find the missing mother. Law enforcement officials meticulously examined Paige's car, suspecting it might hold vital evidence. They noted that the driver's seat had been pushed back as far as possible, suggesting a tall person had last driven it, someone taller than Paige, who was shorter and couldn't have reached the pedals from that position. Inside the trunk, they discovered Paige's notebook, with several pages torn out, covering the dates from June 26th to June 29th. A few days after the burned-out vehicle was found, a driver stopped on a highway southeast of town due to tire trouble. Nearby, he noticed a checkbook, which he promptly reported to authorities. During the investigation of that stretch of road, police also uncovered medical records, insurance cards, and other personal items belonging to Paige. Sergeant Weir observed that several pages from the checkbook had been torn out, and the scattered items suggested a hurried or deliberate effort to conceal evidence. Among the discoveries was a business card, which proved crucial to reopening the case. It revealed that Paige was leading a double life unknown to her friends and family. The card indicated she was working in a professional capacity, a fact that challenged all previous assumptions about her disappearance. From that moment, investigators faced a startling new reality. After her divorce, Paige had been determined to provide for her children by starting a children's clothing business, while also teaching dance lessons and selling kitchen supplies through a company. Despite her busy schedule, she remained actively involved in her children's lives, attending parent-teacher meetings and participating in school groups. However, the police's new findings revealed she had been living a secret life, involving a second phone used exclusively for her work as an escort. This discovery was pivotal, as it opened a new chapter of questions. Why would a devoted mother and successful businesswoman lead such a double life? How was her secret profession connected to her disappearance? Investigators turned their attention to the cell phone found in Paige's car. Analyzing its call history, they uncovered a list of contacts and recent calls made and received in the hours before she vanished. The last call from that phone was traced to around 900 hours on June 28th, deepening the mystery. This evidence, along with the other discoveries, painted a far more complicated picture of Paige's life, one filled with secrets that even her closest friends and family could not have imagined. After analyzing the available information, investigators identified 7 individuals as suspects, with Lester Ralph Jones standing out due to his criminal past involving violence against women and kidnapping. He had served 5 years in prison for one such incident, but this alone did not raise immediate suspicion. A white car matching the description provided by Carol's friend also drew attention, as it appeared near the scene. Carol had shared a crucial detail with detectives. She remembered a day when Paige approached her vehicle and noticed another white car blocking her driveway. Frustrated, Paige tried to maneuver out, but accidentally collided with the obstructing vehicle. The unknown driver then fled the scene, fueling suspicions. Further investigation revealed Lester Jones had attempted to arrange a meeting with Paige the day before she disappeared. When questioned, Lester denied knowing anything about her disappearance and provided fingerprints and DNA samples. Police found several suspicious items in his home, including a disposable cell phone, men's wigs, a sheet with an escort service phone number, and women's lingerie of various sizes. Particular attention was given to the disposable phone, which was linked to Lester through call records. Analysis showed that on the day Paige vanished, someone made multiple attempts to contact her from an unregistered number. Lester claimed he did not own a second phone, but store footage from a supermarket on North Avenue confirmed he had purchased the device. When confronted with the footage, Lester refused to acknowledge it was him. Despite the lack of direct evidence, Lester Jones became the primary suspect in Paige's disappearance. Authorities followed him closely, hoping to find her body to gather enough evidence for charges. The case remained unresolved for several years, leaving Paige's family and loved ones in despair, uncertain of her fate. As time passed, hope of finding her alive diminished. Then, in 2012, a hiker accidentally discovered human remains in a ravine near rocks and bushes in Delta County, very close to the spot where Paige's belongings had been found 5 years earlier. Experts, upon examining the scene, quickly believed the remains belonged to her. DNA testing confirmed her identity, providing some closure. Unfortunately, the condition of the body was so deteriorated that the exact cause of death could not be determined, though it was evident she had been struck multiple times, with several bones broken. Her facial bones revealed signs of trauma, leading investigators to conclude she had died from injuries sustained during a brutal assault. Over time, soil erosion caused her remains, initially buried underground, to surface, which explained why she had gone unnoticed for so long. Lester Ralph Jones's case stalled for several years until her remains were discovered in November of 2014. He was then charged with kidnapping, first-degree murder, and second-degree murder. However, the trial did not commence until July of 2016 and lasted 22 days. Prosecutors argued that Lester, already known for violence against women, was enraged by his inability to see Paige after multiple failed attempts to schedule an appointment. The key witness for the prosecution was Lester's ex-wife, Lisa, who recounted how he had kidnapped her and threatened her with a gun in the late 1990s. She described the difficulties she faced in ending their relationship, noting that Lester had once attacked her with a gun and that her partner was shot in the head a month later. Lester had threatened her again, warning she might end up at the bottom of a lake. Fortunately, Lisa managed to escape and contacted the authorities, leading to Lester's arrest on charges of kidnapping and assault. His defense team argued that police had detained an innocent man and suggested that other individuals connected to Paige might have had motives, though they failed to produce concrete evidence linking anyone else to the crime. Lester's current wife also testified, acknowledging she knew about his use of an escort service but remained with him, despite lacking an alibi and identifying him from a supermarket surveillance video where he purchased a disposable phone. On September 9th of 2016, the jury was unable to reach a unanimous verdict, resulting in a mistrial. Nonetheless, the district attorney remained convinced of Lester's guilt and meticulously re-examined all evidence over several days. By November 21st, 2016, after a thorough review, the jury returned a guilty verdict on all charges related to Paige's death. The judge sentenced Lester to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. Despite an appeal from his defense, the appellate court upheld the sentence in June of 2022, affirming Lester's guilt. Paige's final farewell occurred on April 28, 2012. Her obituary described her as a radiant woman whose smile was as bright as the sun. Her tragic death profoundly impacted her family and friends, leaving her 3 children orphaned and without their primary source of support and encouragement. Paige's case drew widespread media attention and spanned many years, but relentless efforts by law enforcement and her loved ones ultimately brought justice. Lester Ralph Jones was found guilty and sentenced to life in prison without parole, ensuring he could no longer harm anyone. Her story remains a poignant reminder of resilience and the pursuit of justice. Certainly, please provide the original text you'd like me to rework, and I will create a polished, concise, and engaging version based on your instructions.